Wow. Now, hey, you got to admit, that's a great song to start this off, and I want to thank Amanda Curran, who is here. Hello, Amanda.
Hello, Mark. Hey, all.
How are
Please let me
you?
know, is the echo gone? They'll be saying, ooh, that's what she really sounds like. Bring the echo back.
Oh.
Oh, hopefully you could all hear the song. I have great taste in music. What can I say? I'm a Beatle fan.
That's
Hope you
right.
enjoyed that. Yeah, I think a few people enjoyed the new songs every once in a while to fit the theme.
Sure. I think that's true.
Yeah,
So,
hopefully everyone's having a nice evening,
yeah, I think so. I
beautiful
am.
night.
It is. It's actually a reasonable night. Astronomically, it's not the really good night, but it's good enough to view the moon. We do have a lot of clouds around, but they're high clouds. Things that would stop us from seeing some of the really delicate details and things. Thank you, Dee, for letting us know that. Um, the echo is gone. Thank you, Super
Yay!
Cat. That's
Awesome.
right. You know, if you think, well, having to listen to one Amanda's bad enough, whoa, you got to listen to two. Whoa, that's a joke.
I'm also Gemini. You're always listening to two, whether you know it or not.
Ooh,
But the good one's here tonight. The one for fun and the one full of questions and
that's right.
enthusiasm.
That's right.
Hopefully it's infectious to the chat and
I suspect it
couple
will be.
questions. Yeah,
The next
nice crowd
noise,
turning out already.
yeah, it's looking good. Now we're going to be spending some time on the moon tonight. I'm going to be taking you guys on a little bit of a tour of some different aspects on the moon. We have a different system in place now in the observatory. We are using a different music system. We're using a different audio system. I spent pretty much a whole day the other day getting it up and running. So that's kind of where we are right now. So hopefully it will be something that we can enjoy very much, together. I'm looking forward to your comments in the chat. I'm looking forward to questions. And I also am going to announce right now that we have just kicked off our our store online, which is going to sell the craters that you see on the moon as 3D prints that have been processed and carefully painted with exquisite detail. And this is something that we've been targeting to do for a long time. It's part of my business FX models, okay, and I figured why not. Um, so you can let me know what you think. And Amanda's going to put, I can hear her typing, she's probably going to put the link into the
I already
chat.
did
Oh, you
actually.
did? Okay, cool.
Doing
So
a
you can
little
check it
moon
out.
dance over.
Yeah, so you can check it out and see what's what, and if you enjoy it, great. We have a lot of different craters, and you know what the thing is? It's not like what you see is all you get, because you'll notice one of the selections is one of the selections is actually uh, a particular a particular selection that says you can just select your own crater you want to use. Okay, you want to have us print, and we'll do it. That doesn't mean you'll get it overnight now, because it won't be already printed. It'll be something we'll print, and then it'll be available over the next day or so, and then we'll send it on out to you. And we have a standard and deluxe, crater plates we're going to make. And all we're doing is trying to figure out a way to just keep the SkyTour LiveStream going, and just bring in enough money to cover the expenses. That's all. I'm not looking to get rich on this. I'm looking to offer something cool, and donations are great, but something, I'd rather, that you have something, get something in return. So that's what this is about. So we'll see how it works, and we'll be able to go from there. I'm going to pop out of here just for a minute. I'm just going to change the settings in the camera and just pop back in. That's really pretty. Uh, the dome is not yet. Oh wow! I just saw. I looked up just in time to see a meteor. Goes zipping across the sky. It was actually quite bright. That's
What
neat.
would that have been from? Just random, or is that leftover from not the Leonids, but maybe something coming up, not the Geminids?
No, you're right. I mean, it was coming from a totally different place, so it was probably a random, strike, and that
Wow.
happens quite a lot actually. All night long, as a matter of fact, you can see meteors any time of the day, well, not time of the day, but any time of night. And when I said day, I actually wasn't kidding. You can see meteors during the day as well. And you might say, well, wait a minute, how can you possibly see meteors during the day? Well, the answer is that you can see meteors during the day. In a sense, you can actually use what's called a meteor radio and listen to the meteors that strike the upper atmosphere and the stratosphere and above, and the ionosphere. And when they do, they interact with the molecules up there and they generate a little bit of a radio burst, all right? Because it's just electromagnetic spectrum, right? And it's light. The radio beam is just light, just at a different frequency, a different wavelength. So when you hear a meteor come in, it sounds like this. It goes, all right, or psst, psst, might make a little noise. So that's one thing I've been threatening to add to the observatory is a meteor radio.
I was gonna say, you said you had one of those.
I said I had, yes. I didn't say I had one. I said I had the ability to put one in because I made accommodations for it. So I'm going to add a meteor radio as well to the dome. And that'll give us a chance to hear meteors. And if you don't see them, you'll just hear it, because in the background, you're going to hear the constant, arrival of these meteors, because you're going to hear the noise. Oh, wow. And that'll be on the stream so people can hear it. And so if a big meteor comes in and none of us see it, we'll definitely hear it. And that'll be kind of cool, because that's actually data that's of scientific value. People can look at that data and say, wow, that's pretty neat, and that correlates with where we just saw this gigantic meteor, arriving over, Florida, and it seemed to be traveling north, and at the same time that radio signal made it to us. It probably would have to be like in, New Jersey or just points south of there to be heard here. But, it's something that can happen. Now, the moon is in first quarter phase here. You can actually see this terminator, which looks stunning. I'm actually using a different controller to control the moon tonight. Control the moon, move over moon, to actually control the telescope. And it seems to be working. And it's the kind of thing that allows me to do things in a more compact way and a lot easier. And I'm just really happy that this is all working out so far. And so far, I don't see anybody, complaining in the chat about anything that they shouldn't be hearing or whatever. Everything seems running okay. I had folks come in and do a test of me yesterday, and it seemed to be working okay. So I was pleased with that. So we'll see how it works, So Amanda, I've turned the chat over to you because I've had to go to full screen mode here.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun though. It's fun watching chat.
Yeah,
when you're not doing 500 other things.
Yeah, and I love to watch chat. I kind of feel disconnected from you guys, and I apologize. I don't like feeling disconnected. I'm the guy that, when I speak at a conference, I'm the guy that doesn't use the podium. I'm the guy that walks out into the audience. All right. I'm the guy, and I'm not the only one that does this, but I'm the guy that will actually go and spend time, in the front row. I'll sit down with someone in the front row, and I'll have a wireless mic on or whatever, and, I'll be able to talk to someone in the front row. And if there's a vacant chair, did I just see something go across the moon, by the way? It was bright, so I don't know what that was.
Okay.
It might have been in my eye, but I'm just offering it up as a possibility.
Hold on, I just typed in eyes peeled. So if anyone does see anything, by the time they hear it,
By the time they hear me say this,
yeah, hopefully they see me saying, "Watch the screen."
They do.
Chat.
They see it before it actually shows up. But anyway, so I'm sorry I lost track because I was focusing on that thing that I thought crossed the screen. So when I look at the clouds.
See, now if we had that meter detector,
we'd heard it. We'd have heard it.
Now, but how does it know to only pick up meteors, that it doesn't pick up like planes and satellites and anything passing?
A meteor electromagnetic burst is actually fairly strong, and it goes quickly, and it has a characteristic sound. And that characteristic sound is something that you'll hear. It's kind of a little whistle. Really neat. It's very, very unmistakable. So that's something that would be, obvious. We wouldn't mistake it for a plane. Planes won't make the same kind of sound, if any, in this particular region of the spectrum. We would know how to we'd know to avoid, for instance, planes anyway, because they would be very, very characteristic sounds and beeps, and you might hear a digital carrier wave, which you wouldn't hear in a meteor. So it's actually interesting to listen to or listen for meteors. I remember when I was younger, I actually made a meteor radio a long time ago, and actually made it from scratch. That means I wound the coil, I put this little bar in, I actually added the actual capacitors and resistors, and I actually made myself a simple little radio, and then put it to a little Radio Shack speaker, and I just let it sit out, and I listened to the sounds that were coming out of the speaker. Now, I didn't just like whip together components and say, hey, I wonder what this does. I followed a little plan, and I heard meteors, and they went beep, beep, like beep. This is so cool, and I never forgot that, and I thought that would be the coolest thing. So I may build another meteor radio to actually do that sooner, or I might just grab one that's already out there and available. But I just think it's kind of cool, very cool actually, to have a meteor radio to do this kind of stuff. It's just the neatest thing, So, so folks in chat, how are you tonight? Tell me how it's going. What are you up to?
Well, Dee had a lovely comment. She said, your channel is maturing and becoming so professional sounding.
Oh, Dee, thank you so much. She is. That's the other thing. And now tonight, I don't know if you're up for this, Amanda, but if there's anyone in chat that would like to share a moon story with us, or a moon story, a moon story in particular. Our topic for tonight, of course, is the moon, and it's pretty obvious, I think, and that's why Moon Dance, which again, Amanda's selection. She's, I got to tell you, folks, this girl is amazing, and she doesn't want to hear it. She's so she's self-deprecating, doesn't like to admit it, doesn't like to say, yeah, I am cool, but she is, and she knows her stuff, and she's an example of someone who knows her stuff but says she doesn't. Okay. And those kind of people can be really irritating, okay? But
that sounds more like me.
But you gotta love them. You gotta love their efforts, and I do. I think she's doing a great job. Now, if you want to check out the stuff that we're doing, you can go to the SkyTour LiveStream site and see the latest photos that we put up there. You can also check me out or check us out in the FX Models Planetary Replica section if you want to peruse the store and see what we got for craters. Gee, hi, have fun, and you'll see the 3D prints. That we got some nice ones up there, and there's more to come, and those are just samples of what we have already. But keep in mind that you can order and get any crater on the moon virtually. I've been speaking with the USGS folks that are operating the servers that do this, and they've actually sent me the data for the North Polar area and the South Polar area of the moon, which is not available online. And so I can actually get, some of those craters, and I'm planning on doing that as well, because I want to be able to just get craters out to everybody. I want people to understand the topography of the moon, because we get a lot of questions. Why is the moon, why are the craters, flat bottom? They look like they're all the same depth. Well, take a look at one of the crater plates that we have, one of our crater plates. It doesn't have just the one crater. Usually there's more than one. All right, especially if, like, for instance, with Tycho, our print of Tycho shows Tycho crater and a bunch of craters around it as well. And you can clearly see that the craters are all different depths, and so this is something important. It gives you a feel and an understanding for the full three-dimensional elevations on the moon. Our perspective from 236,000 miles away, nominal distance from the moon, doesn't give us an ability to see how far down a crater goes. We look at the craters that we're looking at right now on the screen. And, you can think, well, those look like the bottoms of the craters are probably the same level as the areas around them, especially right there, the bigger crater just off center to the left. And the answer is it's not true. How do I know? Because I've used the LRO, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter Quick Map site, which is all new, all updated, and I have used the tools to do the analysis of the height maps, or the heights on the moon of these different areas. And we're going to do, I call it a cloudy night stream, but I don't need to do it as a cloudy night stream. I can do it as a cold night stream. And I'm going to show you how to use this new LRO Quick Map browser. And then you'll be able to go through the moon, check out things, and find craters that you think are cool. And it's on both the near side, far side, north and south poles now that you can look at. It's really been, it's matured. And Dee, I thank you for your comments about our stream maturing. But I also want to mention that the LRO Quick Map browser itself has matured. They put it up in a way for scientists to use originally, so they could check data and just do some data crunching for the values of the linear distances on the moon. But now what they've done is they've taken that down a notch, okay? Because they want to make it available to everybody, and they noticed with the lack of participation, mostly from the people, that it was probably a good idea to make it more reachable by everybody, and that's just what they did. Now, do they still have all the same features? Absolutely. They're just buried a little deeper. The things that a scientist would use. Okay, so for instance, if I want to get M3 spectra, okay, of the moon, it's not right there on the front page anymore. It's not right there as one of the menu picks. You got to dig for it a little. That's okay. It's okay, because if you're used to using this system, man, you can just go to town anyway, and that's the beauty of this particular system. All right, so that's the LRO Quick Map that we're gonna check out. Is in a cold night or cloudy night stream, and I think that it's going to be really fun because you'll get to learn how to navigate with a really professional tool, and it's like something that I use a lot. In fact, I get lost in it. I got to admit, folks, I get lost in it. I'll find myself zipping around the moon, and say, I just want to look at these craters. I just want to look at the walls of Copernicus crater, and you can get them in 0.5 meter per pixel resolution, which means that a single pixel or single camera pixel, a pixel on the screen, graphic pixel, corresponds to 0.5 meter on the moon. You can't hide much when your resolution is like that. You'd have to have a ship that's smaller than 18 inches to be able to be invisible. And there's not much on the moon that is. Okay, you can even see, like for instance, the ALSEP, ALSEP, ALSEP experiments from the lunar missions at the end of the foot trails that you can also see. You can see you can even see the American flag, believe it or not. Now, I just saw another meteor through the clouds far out on the horizon. That was cool. I
think you should zoom out of the moon and just focus on the sky.
I can't zoom out of the moon, because of the nature of what's going on here. I can't zoom out of the moon. That's kind of cool though. I'm gonna zoom out of the moon. But the LRO Quick Map browser will allow you to see details like we see on the screen here, but then you just use your mouse wheel and keep zooming in, and you start to think, this is impossible. How am I seeing our moon at such high resolution? And the answer, of course, is that the answer, of course, is that I'm sorry, my son was just. I'll tell you what, my son was just texting me from his university class. Okay, the moon is so varied. You wouldn't think I'm watching a cloud's going to cross the moon right now. Let's just see if we can see it do so. Hold on. Oh, it's already crossing.
Well, that was kind of zooming out of the moon.
Well, yeah, but that's not really good enough. Yeah. Anyway, as I was saying, the bottom line here is that with the Quick Map browser, you're able to actually see things that you just would never have the option of seeing. Okay, and so I'm actually going to take a picture here. Hold on. I know I'm getting a little crazy and off the wall here, but I apologize for that. Let me just do this, and let me just take a picture now. Okay, it's gonna be quick. That's it, done. So that's the picture. And now if I this will help me with some critical focus. I just want to make sure I've got the focus where it belongs. All right, let's see. Yeah, that's pretty sharp. I'm also going to be, when I can, I'm going to upgrade the view here so that I can actually zoom in far more than I do with the telescope. I'm going to make it so we can get a lot closer. When you look at P and K with Paul, you know, Paul's a good friend of mine. Paul will, you know, zoom right into these craters so close that you can actually see the air turbulence with some exquisite detail, and that is something that, you know, that is something that I want to be able to do as well. And, you know, and Paul and Keith both encourage it. You know, they you know, basically we want to do that. You know, wow, look at that is something. Let me just pop out of this for 1 second. We're gonna come back to that one. Look at that, huh? Is that not something? Look at that. That's gorgeous. Now think about it. Okay.
See, but when you see things like that, that's why I hate when people get so mad when a newcomer says, "Oh, can we see the flag?" Because if you don't know, like,
yeah,
it looks like we're so close, like we're only a few feet away from that crater. So yeah, of course we should be able to see the flag, not taking into account, like, even still how far away we are, even in this, you know?
Yeah.
I get that question, and yeah, I mean, some people are just being trolls, but looking at it, seeing, I don't know, having it seem this close,
right?
I honestly get that question.
Yeah,
I'm sure I asked that question when I first came around, and I'm like, really? Can any telescope see it? And people are like, you don't realize how small that is, how far away that is on such a big surface. And
I wrote a big story about, I don't know if I put it on HuffPost. I gotta kind of remember, but it was about the Hubble telescope and why you couldn't train the Hubble on the moon and see the lunar landers and see everything like up close and personal. Because people say, well, hey, if it's taking these pictures of galaxies far away and all this stuff and it's such exquisite detail, how come we can't see the lunar landers? It seems like a foregone conclusion that that's at minimum what we should see. And the answer comes down to this. The sensor on the Hubble telescope is a certain size, and each pixel on that sensor accepts light from the distant object. Now, if you look at how much area on the moon is covered by a single pixel on the Hubble Space Telescope, you'll see that it amounts to many, many, many tens of feet. That means that a single pixel would be able to encompass the entire Apollo 11 landing site. A single pixel, okay? Now, the smallest of images that is, again, what we would call low resolution, is an image that's 320 by 240 pixels in height and width, okay? So how can one pixel possibly show that when a low resolution image is 320 of those pixels across? See? So, you know, we have to consider that this is, you know, this is a telescope that's worth its weight in gold, but we're not able to see the, we're not able to see the moon landers or anything like that because of the simple scale involved and the simple fact that the pixels on the Hubble Space Telescope imager just can't see, a large enough area, and so you can't see and put together an image of the Apollo landing sites with the Hubble Space Telescope. That's just the nature of the telescope, all right? So, and there's a very big difference between what you see when you look at a galaxy 3 billion light years away. Because people think distance, and they think, wow, if you can see 3 billion light years away, why can't you see 240,000? They're not thinking properly about how this works. To the telescope, it doesn't know 3 billion from 240,000. It just knows resolution. Right? It only knows resolution. And unfortunately, the resolution of the Hubble Space Telescope does not allow us to see objects smaller than a certain size. at the distance of the moon, that is. So the things at the distance of the moon, you might be able to, if they've done this, they've trained the Hubble Space Telescope on the moon, and it does produce some gorgeous imagery. All right. However, the imagery has a certain resolution, and unfortunately, that resolution is such that we can't see anything smaller than a certain size. I think that if we look at how the pixels break down on the surface compared to the pixels in the Hubble Space Telescope, what they see on the surface, we're looking at like it's more than 200 feet that a single pixel encompasses. And that's just about the entire size of the Apollo 11 landing site. And it's a great portion of the Apollo 12. Okay, it's a good portion of the Apollo 14. Apollo 13 never made it, remember? And it's a good portion of 15s, and then 15 had the rovers, 16 and 17 had the rovers, so it increased the distance, and so you might be able to get say 3 pixels on the Hubble Space Telescope that encompass a landing site. I think I calculated for like Apollo 12 the entire total site with the long EVA, that extravehicular activity. Why don't they just say they went for a walk? Okay, a moonwalk. The largest moonwalk distance they took was to Surveyor Crater, which is a couple hundred feet away from the lunar module and around the rim of another small crater. And the Surveyor spacecraft that went there, it had landed there about 4 years earlier, 3 or 4 years earlier, was actually sitting there on an angle. And the astronauts walked down to something that we sent to the moon 3 years before that. And they touched it, and it's like, look at that. And they actually brought back something on board. That was pretty cool. And so that whole process, that whole thing with the Surveyor Crater and Apollo 12, even that, I think when I calculated, I can't remember, I wrote the thing up, I'll have to go back and look, but or you can find it on my postings under my page or a bunch of groups. But I think it was a total, the landing site encompassed a total of about 3 Hubble Space Telescope pixels. And there's no image on Earth that would be 3 pixels in size. And keep in mind, a pixel is all one color. So clearly, we're talking about many pixels that are required to get anything of any reasonable accuracy. But so that's kind of where it sits. And I'm going to try and do a critical focus here, just so we can.
Okay, because we had a question, and then someone did share a story, but they're trying to figure out Skype. So if we can get them on, I'll let them share the story instead. If not,
actually, that
I have
sounds
permission to.
That's a great idea.
And we may have a caller a little later on too.
Okay.
Not naming names, but we'll see. Please feel free.
Even
again,
I can't know.
Well, just in case.
That's all right.
Just in case if they want to
fine.
call.
They can.
Again, if you guys have Skype. Just because Mark is on his phone and trying to do a million things, so you'd have to Skype me so I can add you to the call. It's DannyFan1. It's in chat. I'll put it in again. DHANIFAN and the number 1.
Yep, I'm happy to.
If you have a moon story, a question, whatever.
Yeah.
Duplicate said he thought he once heard that even with all these zoom-ins, we're still viewing from approximately 650 miles above the surface. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it depends on the telescope you have. Okay. My view is a little bit higher than Paul's from P&K. However, I do have, like I said, I do have other equipment that I'm going to be implementing that's going to allow us to get in there as tight as Paul does with the P&K space imaging. Don't forget, I'm a deep space guy. I'm not a moon guy. I'm not ever going to try and steal their thunder, because we all are working together. They're going to be, and remember, don't forget, we're all part of astroimaginglive.com. The wide-angle views are Bill New York Skywatcher. The moon and planet views, P&K Space Imaging. The deep space stuff, that'll be my bag. But you know something? Sometimes we overlap. I did an Orion NIDS meteor stream where I had the camera on a tripod. I did, I'm doing a moon view tonight. All right. And I'm very sure that, that Paul and Keith are going to try doing some deep sky stuff as well, at some point. I know they will, because we've talked about it. And I've given them pointers and told them what I do, and if they want my help, I will give them help. So, you know.
Well, and it's good because unfortunately, Keith doesn't usually have people on with him. He just plays cool music and looks at the moon. So it's great that we can come here, learn about what we're looking at, how things were created, ask questions, get kind of a feeling. And then when you aren't just listening to tunes, at least you have a better idea of what you're looking at, because he puts nice little, you know, why does it look wavy? Why we can't see the flag? Like little notes will pop up on screen from time to time for newbies. But, you know, it's nice. And I mean, if Keith is in chat and he has the answer, sure, he'll let you know. But, you know, it's better to have an understanding, I think, for the nights when you don't want to learn. You just want to sit back and enjoy what you have learned. Yeah.
Exactly. And if, you know, if someone doesn't want to listen to me going on, they can just turn down the volume and look at the views. You know?
Yeah, of course.
And that's okay. I chose not to do the music in particular just because initially I didn't have the capability to play music. And then once I did, which as you cannot hear, it's not playing, and I'll go start it up because I want to. It's all the new system anyway. And you can enjoy Copernicus crater there on the left and Eratosthenes there on the right, both of which are craters we have in our collection already, which you can get. So let me just go look at this and get ourselves running with the music. I think that it's going to be kind of cool, and we're going to go a little bit classical for now. All right.
Well, now I'm going to be a little lost. And
Why?
Because I hate Dead Air so much, but this is such a pretty song that...
Oh, no, I'm not going to stop talking.
I know, but I'm going to stop thinking because I'm going to be listening to the tune.
This is the Blue Danube, and the reason that it's the Blue Danube Waltz. And I'm going to tell you something that I haven't told anybody. Telling this to all of you.
An exclusive.
It's an exclusive. And
this is why you have to hit the bell not to miss any episodes.
The truth is, I can hum and play and hum and kind of do all the instruments in the Blue Danube from start to finish, the entire waltz. I know the whole song by heart. Why? Because I was taken so much by the first place I ever saw the Blue Danube Waltz, and that was on a movie, and that movie was 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I saw as a little kid. I didn't understand the monkeys throwing bones in the air. I just went for the space effects and the cool things, and you know, and I didn't know Douglas Trumbull at that point, but that was the movie on which he did all the special effects. The his first movie he's ever done. And he worked with Stanley Kubrick, famous producer and director rather. And when you think of the Blue Danube, many people have different approaches. They have different thoughts. Well, okay, the Blue Danube is neat. I think of people dancing and dun dun dun, but I think of a spaceship pirouetting in space and rotating and matching a space station's speed, and then coming in for the landing, because that was the Pan Am Clipper that was the scene where the entire song was playing while it was approaching the space station. There was no dialogue, just a little bit, and you saw the Pan Am Clipper, this spacecraft, approach, and it was like a dance. It was like a waltz, a dance between a spacecraft and a station. And it matched the rotation, and then it comes in and lands in the dock, and it was just stunning. And it's I can't say enough about it. It was a great movie, and it affected me greatly. And hearing that scene made me play the waltz over and over again. When I got home, okay, I bought the Strauss album, and I played it over and over to my mother's chagrin. Will you please stop playing that stupid song? But what can I say? I didn't stop playing the stupid song. I kept playing it, and I had a great time. I thought that it was a really worthwhile song to learn. And I don't know, I just had so much fun because I actually made a Pan Am clipper. You know, I had one as a model that I bought, which was available too. And then I ended up, you know, I think destroying it when I wanted to create a ship explosion with fire. That was a failure because the fires never scale right at that size of a little tiny 12-inch model. But you know, but it was fun, and I enjoyed the Blue Danube Waltz very much. And so I figured we're gonna do a little classic music tonight. And once this is done, we'll return to something else. You know. I also have the can, you know, but I won't play that. So this is a scene where the Pan Am clipper's actually rotating and matching the speed of the space station. It's nearly at the space station, right? And then the woman is walking down the aisle inside the Pan Am clipper and picking up Heywood Floyd's pen, which is floating in the air. Now, any of you who saw 2001: A Space Odyssey, that pen floating in the air was not done with CG. There was no CG back then. And Doug Trumbull, of course, he asked me, how do you think we did that? And I went, it's no strings because it's too regular. And he goes, right. And I just couldn't figure it out. And he smiled and he goes, I'll tell you how we did it. And when that pen is rolling by and just spinning in midair, and Heywood Floyd, you know, the guy that's heading to the moon to meet about this object they found on the moon, you see Floyd is just sleeping, and the flight attendant walks up, grabs it out of the air, and puts it back in his pocket. Now, how did he do that? Doug had to make this effect happen. Here's what he did. He took a big circular pane of glass and made rollers, and with a tiny piece of double stick tape, he stuck it to the face of that glass, all right? And made sure that when it was pulled off by the flight attendant, that
your music's getting a little too loud. I can barely hear you.
Well, I don't know about that. Maybe it is. This could be me. So they won't hear it. Then they'll have to hear it again from somebody else. No, I'm kidding. It does get louder. The waltz does get louder.
No, I couldn't hear the last part you were talking about.
Okay. Well, I don't know how loud you're listening to. I don't know how the combination, but it's all right. We'll figure it out. Anyway, I think this is a little better. Yes.
I think so. I can hear you better anyway. Yeah. Okay.
So what he did
Doug
was
Trumbull said, "How do you think we did that?"
Right. He created a circular pane of glass and made rollers, and stagehands held this thing on these rollers and slowly rolled the gigantic circular pane of optically clear glass through which the camera was looking. And the pen was right in front of it, rolling on the glass. And then this flight attendant comes over, grabs the pen, pulls it off, and Doug made sure that the sticky tape went with it. And so that was part of their experimentation. It went, and bam! Now they had this pen in the lady's hand with nothing on the glass, and then she put the pen in his pocket and walked away. That whole scene was amazing. And now, then there was the scene where they were in the space station. I'm sorry, they're in the Discovery, if you recall, and Bowman, all right, was jogging. And you notice that as he was jogging, the station is rolling by, and it's a continuous shot. You see, the life pods with the other scientists in it going by, and it was like a circular, a round floor, not round. It was a circular, rotating item that made them part of the station, part of the ship that actually gave them, one Earth gravity, one G. So as he's jogging, and it's a constant shot, and you say, wow, how did they do that? They didn't make, they didn't have, CG. They couldn't do it with CG like they would do today. What they did was they had a slot in the floor, and the camera was mounted on the floor of the sound stage, and they had this gigantic set rolling on these big rollers. And the actor playing Bowman was jogging right in front of the camera as the floor rolled past him and rolled out from under him, and like he was on a giant Ferris wheel and running on the inside of the Ferris wheel. and it was just so cool. And they hid the groove that the camera was in very well by disguising it as another groove, and so it came out to be a fantastic shot. How do I know all this? Because Doug showed me his presentation where he talks about how he made 2001: A Space Odyssey, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Blade Runner, and all these other movies. He also, I don't know if people know this, but Doug did Andromeda Strain. Remember the Michael Crichton novel about a little town of Piedmont, Colorado that had this major bug from a spacecraft that crashed back to Earth, and it had a foreign alien bug on it, and it started killing people by causing their blood to turn to just not sand, but dry up and powder. And it turned out that some people survived, and they had to detect how did they survive. Great movie. I really love this. And this is where the ship actually docks, right? And then it cuts to Haywood Floyd, reaching and talking to some of the folks and so forth. I'm going to turn this down now because that was a very different volume level.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, nice. So, I suspect.
Well,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I suspect that there's a lot of those things that I could talk about to show people how they were made. Because I'm in the movie and television industry, and I do a lot of things with people that do this kind of stuff, so it's kind of neat. All right.
Okay, well, I enjoyed that story, but I think we may have our first moon story from chat.
Oh, we have a guest?
And, well, we're going to try, because that's the thing. I think when you first add me, there might be like a few minute delay, but I'm going to try to add our good friend and teacher over in Thailand, David.
Dave Schmidt.
So let me see.
David Schmidt, come on down.
And some people are new to Skype, so you're going to have to give them a minute to answer the call. And
all right. Dave Schmidt's on the moon, and so it'll take a while to hear from him, but don't worry.
Well, that's what happened the other day with Ronald. He had just added me, and I tried to add him, so we'll see what happens.
Okay.
David, are you there?
I think so. I'm not sure.
David,
Hi,
you are
welcome to
here.
the stream, David.
David, welcome
Amazing.
to SkyTour LiveStream. It's a pleasure to have you. How are you?
Oh, Mark, it's fantastic to be here and see both of you. Thank you for everything you've been doing for everyone and for the information that you share with us. It's and so incredible to speak with you folks.
Oh, I'm glad you could join us.
Yes, thank you for joining Skype to reach out to us. We really appreciate that. How is it in Thailand?
It's not too bad this morning. Kind of smooth and gray. Nice relief from the heat, you might say.
Nice.
And
Okay.
Donnie, thanks for helping me get this set up. I've never worked with Skype before, so I wasn't sure how to go about it. And I'm using this beat-up old set of headphones, so I'm glad the mic still works.
It does.
The mic sounds great. Yeah.
It sounds like you're in the dome here with me, and I keep looking around. Where is he? He's right here somewhere. So it's good quality sound. Good job.
And
Great.
see, I did copy your story down in case this didn't work. I was going to share it, but if you want to share it with us, take it away.
Yeah, tell us your story, David. I'd love to hear about it.
Well, earlier Donnie had asked if anyone had a moon story, and it just brought me back to a time years ago when I was still back in Pittsburgh. I had gone outside, and it was an early winter evening, and I looked up, and I saw an incredible ring around the moon, quite a bit distance out from it, but the ring was sort of lit because it was a fairly clear night, which made it hard to figure out, and the moon was pretty sure it was full. So the light was hitting this ring, and I just stared. I was spellbound. So, of course, the next day I started calling people and trying to get an explanation as to what made that. And I called my university. I couldn't get around over there. Nobody would take the call. I called the local TV station, tried to get the weather guy,
Mhm.
and finally I got a hold of the one of the people that worked in the weather office out at the local airport, and they explained that it was ice crystals in the air, and it wasn't a ring per se. It's just that when you look straight up, you might say your vision is taking the shortest path, and I was seeing the edges of where the ice crystals formed in the air,
Wow,
and it
that's
took
right.
the shape of a ring. Oh, it was incredible.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
no, that was the moon story.
that's great. I mean, the popular name for that is a moon dog, and it's sort of the opposing version of what we would call the sun dog. And the moon dog and the sun dog, okay, because of the way the ice crystals work, they work like a little bit of a prism. So they actually refract the light, and that angle, the distance from the moon, is about 22.5 degrees on each side. It's pretty cool. And then same thing with the sun. Now there's another phenomenon that's pretty cool that actually has to do with these sun dogs and moon dogs. If there's a thunderstorm in the area, okay, then what can happen is those ice crystals can be upset by the electrical currents in the air, and you end up with a phenomenon that can really freak you out. It's called a dancing sun dog or a dancing moon dog. And a dancing sun dog, okay, for instance, happens when there's a thunderhead nearby and the charges are in the cloud, and you see this like a ray of light that's refracting ice crystals up high. When a charge builds up in the cloud, that light beam can just instantly like move 90 degrees and shift like someone's whipping a flashlight around up there, and it looks eerie, it looks unearthly. And I actually I think I did a show. I think it's a What on Earth episode. I'm not sure. And this What on Earth episode was where they had this and they wanted to know what it was. And I said, "Oh, that's a dancing sundog." And they were like, "Oh, cool. Can you explain it and do it at a fifth grade level?" And I did. But how do you explain refraction in a way that everybody gets? You know what I mean? Because it's not terribly complex, but it's also not the easiest thing to understand just intuitively when you're just watching a TV. But that's a very cool story, David. I'm very happy you shared that with us.
Well, I appreciate learning a little bit more too, and learning the one might say the official name of that ring. I've never seen one around the sun though, but
Yeah,
just around the
no,
moon.
yeah, they occur around the sun, but it it happens when it happens at certain times of the year when the ice crystals up in the sky are aligned a certain way, and there's a certain number of them, and it doesn't happen all year round, but you can get it to happen. You can see them, so they're very cool. But it's either a sun dog, moon dog, same thing. Yeah.
Well, it's
And
funny because go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention I played in a band years ago, and after we had reformed, one of the names that I kicked around with them for the band was Sundog, because
That's
when
great.
summer comes, I used to love to just lay in the sun like a dog. So,
That's so funny because that's actually a term. Oh, it's the sun dogs. Wow, they're refracted rainbows. Those guys are cool ice crystals. That's pretty neat. That's really cool.
oh,
Well,
and
I'll have to
Mark,
throw in my Beatle comment for the night then.
What's that?
John Lennon's first band was Johnny and the Moondogs.
Oh, very cool. See,
That's
that's
right.
the opposite side
I'm
now.
reading that.
But
Mark,
no, I
Mark,
was
but
going to say the
this
way Mark was saying how dumb it down to talk to fifth graders and stuff. You're actually teaching, and maybe not to this level, but you're teaching some young students over there in Thailand yourself. For those in chat that might not know.
No, that's right, and it is always a challenge to, excuse me, it's a challenge to explain, as Mark said, somewhat complicated concepts in language that is simple enough for them to grasp without losing the details, without losing the means to make them understand it. But one of the fun things, at least for me, is that if they don't understand it, I get to explain it a different way.
Yeah.
And I always tell my kids that if they don't understand, they've got to let me know, because I love to explain it every way I can. Try different words, different phrases, different analogies, drag out some videos, whatever it takes. And it's part of what keeps the job fun and fresh.
Yeah, that
So,
sounds. That's see. I used to teach. Well, they title them gifted children. Okay, I don't know who's more gifted than the others. I guess it comes down to, who can afford to go to these types of schools. But I used to teach gifted children as I'd be a special lecturer. I would come in and teach people these things, these kids, and some of them are very very smart kids, and there were some kids that were doing 10th grade math in 5th grade. There were some that were doing college level math in 8th grade. So, and then there were people that couldn't understand 7th grade math when they were in 9th grade, and they might be all in the same class. So it was really challenging to try and reach that middle ground that didn't lose the smart kids and didn't lose the kids that were struggling to keep up. And I don't envy you, because you definitely have a real tough job trying to educate folks when they're at all different levels automatically.
well, it's called differentiation. You have to present things in the same class in as many different manners as possible because of the different learning styles of various children.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I love is that, how can I phrase this? I'm getting paid every day to learn more about science. So it keeps me
Yeah, how bad can
happy.
it be?
Yeah. Well, also, one of the things that I find important, at least with science, I try to pass on the sense of awe that keeps people motivated and curious to learn. And the other day, one of my other classes, we're beginning cell theory and cell reproduction and whatnot.
Mhm.
And we were talking about twins and how we begin as such minute pieces of matter, and look what we grow into.
Mhm.
And sometimes I get the feeling they've never heard it phrased like that. And I can see it kicking in. And it does really instill that sense of wonder and appreciation for science.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is really crucial.
Yeah. David, and you've probably cornered the market on that age group for sure. But I'll just mention this. One thing that I found you could consider this. Maybe you've done this before. When you ask them, when you talk to them about that kind of thing, the nature of the human body, the nature of what we grow into from the smallest thing, you also can take it out a level, have them step back and look at life forms on this planet as a whole, and ask them to list all the similarities between all these disparate life forms that we have on this earth. Okay, from a salamander to a gazelle. Okay, there are a tremendous number of similarities between all of the animals on this planet. But more than that, there's a tremendous number of similarities between their organization. All right, the organization of the animals, and that is to say, everything from bilateral symmetry to the way they use oxygen to breathe, the way they process and eliminate waste. Okay, every animal does this. Okay, and that's something that you get the kids to think, and you have them I would break kids into groups. Right? That's what I did. I mean, I'd have them list on their own little group as many animals as they could think of and the similarities between them. And then I asked them to find animals that don't match any of that. And they were hard pressed to find animals that didn't match any of that. Okay, because the whole point of the exercise was to show how people how animals on this planet, along with people on this planet, have all these similarities. Now, the whole thing about bilateral symmetry is interesting to me, and that's what I put in my book, The Populated Universe. I wrote about this, in one of the chapters, as part of the chapter. I wrote about bilateral symmetry as a template that the universe seems to provide based on how life is created and evolved on a planet. And again, you've probably thought of this too, and how when you look at, for instance, a tiny little a bug, okay? You look at a bug. The first thing you notice is it's symmetric, okay? All right. Spiders have 8 legs. Insects have 6, okay? And the layout of the legs is pretty much identical. There are certain specialty legs for reproduction and stuff like that. But I'm not talking about ovipositors and things like that. I'm just talking about their legs and antennae. They have antennae. They have eyes. Okay, ways to see, and there's a symmetry to every living creature. Every multi-celled creature, every living creature has this symmetry. And we had nothing to do with creating this symmetry, that the planet itself selected that symmetry in evolution. It selected that naturally. So mutations and adaptations in evolution created life that's symmetric across the spectrum. From some of the smallest creatures to the largest, there's symmetry. And that's something that I think is a natural occurrence. So I think that when we meet another species from somewhere else, I don't think it's going to be a pogo stick creature. Okay? Okay? I don't think it's going to be a cyclopean, cyclops. Okay? I think it's going to have a way to do depth perception if they move in a 3D world, you know? That kind of thing. So I just think it's a neat thing to do, and kids just have a ball with it because you can just turn them loose, you know, and they'll self-police because it's actually very interesting to hear what they say. And then you ask them to stand up and tell me what you found so far. Well, we thought we found this, you know. It's really cool, you know. And I was going to do it for an hour with one of my classes I did at one point, and it turned into a 2-day thing because they wanted to just keep going, and I let them. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world, you know. So I don't know if you've ever done anything like that.
I've asked a lot of open-ended questions, and I get some really incredible responses. In fact, I forget exactly when it was that we had not exactly a stream dedicated to my class, but my class was here, and I was typing in their questions, and you and Keith were answering.
Yeah.
And the kids were really into it, but I never got the chance to share this. After the class, and this one floored me. After the class, this one little gentleman who's quite interesting came up to me and said, "Teacher, can I ask a question?" I said, "Of course." He said, "What's outside the universe?" And I just said, "Oh, Verrett, that's incredible." It's quite a question, actually.
Actually, we should do another stream, you know, with your class. I'd be happy to do that with you if you want to do that. Just set it up with us. We can do it.
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah.
Now that I've actually broken through the wall and I've actually used Skype here, so I understand it a little better. I mentioned to Donnie, though, that I've put on my wish list, I need a couple little karaoke-type mics to plug into the unit here because this headset mic isn't doing too well.
Oh, but people in chat would disagree strongly.
It sounds very good.
They love your voice. You sound so clear.
Yeah, you're very clear. Yeah, you're very clear, and I can see why, you know, kids would enjoy listening to you because you have a voice that isn't grating. It's actually a very pleasant to listen to. You're a very pleasant to listen to guy, man. What can I tell you? You know.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some teachers that are awful, you know.
Radio hosts are crying into their pillows right now hearing this. So.
Yeah. It's the velvety voice of David Schmidt live from Thailand.
Here. I don't know if you caught that in the background, but the buzzer just went off, so my class is changing.
All right.
This is starting. Oh, please do call back. I want to hear more about this because you're doing great work.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. I'll tell you what, I mentioned this to Jello, too. Keith's site, through which I found Jello's site, and Keith's site, through which I found SkyTour LiveStream. It has just made such a difference, and the feel that I have a connection with home again has meant a lot to me. And not only for the knowledge, but just for the camaraderie and for the chat and the goofing around. And then I get to meet people like Daryl, really knowledgeable folks. And it's just great to speak with all of you and to learn as much as I can.
David, I'm humbled. Thank you.
I am so grateful for all of you guys. I have got to go, but I promise I'll try to catch you all again soon.
Yes,
all right, David.
Please do. Have a
Thank
great
you
class.
for spending this time you could with us. Thank you.
Fun.
That was very good.
It's just that easy, and he didn't leave in tears, and he's even going to call back, so...
Why would he leave in tears?
Oh, well, we don't bite.
You may not. I do. I bite right off the bat. You know, I don't take anything. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's cool. He's a very interesting guy, and he's actually quite knowledgeable. You know, and so
see, what I wanted to tell him was something like that, like especially at such a young age, like these are such big concepts, and it's just like I remember being in school that young, and like if I had have applied myself, I would have got good grades. I know it, but I wasn't interested. I wanted to go hang out with my friends. I wanted to play. I wanted to do. I didn't want to learn numbers. I didn't, because I mean, at that age, who cares about the universe? I mean, really, what the moon is doing, does that, like, we found more moons for Jupiter. So, like, you know, like, why would that affect a kid? So how are you, you know, trying to mold these people into being the next scientist, the next astronaut, the next whatever, right?
Yeah.
So you really have to think about it like, look around you. This is every day. Like, you know, get them so wowed that they can't ignore it, and don't just, you know, like awe-inspire them. Don't just memorize these numbers.
Exactly.
You know, like,
yeah. That's
and I think he has that way. Just hearing him and the way he acts in chat, interacting with people, he has that passion, and I think he wants to instill that into others. And what a great age to do it at.
yeah. No lie.
And day and age too. I mean, you can Google anything. You can hop on YouTube and find channels like this. You know, so
Yeah.
it's pretty awesome.
It is. It is very much so. And you know, I think that, you know, when I consider, well, when I think about how it is that I ended up doing astronomy, and as you mentioned that, I was thinking about that, and I was like, what did I do? How was it for me? Well, it was a little bit strange for me, okay, because people that get into astronomy, they tend to be alone a lot as kids, and I was thinking, well, maybe, you know, was that me? Well, I had a lot of friends, and I hung out with people, but what is it that made me actually start to consider looking into astronomy? In other words, why did I look up and never really want to take my eyes off the sky for the rest of my life? What made that happen? And the answer is an interesting one. The answer is that my life took me down a path where I had to have surgery. Okay, I needed heart surgery at age 9, and when I did, when I had that, I couldn't participate in sports. I wasn't allowed to. I wanted to, but I couldn't participate. They wouldn't let me. So I had to do all kinds of things to try and make up, you know, for not being able to, you know, participate in those things. So what that meant for me was that I didn't have a whole lot of fun. Didn't have a whole lot of things that I could do as a kid. So what did I do? I ended up becoming like one of these kids that looked up in the sky, and I ended up becoming someone who enjoyed the night sky. And as time went on, I began to learn and read about it so much that I started telling people about it. I said, "Wow, you know, I learned this about the moon." And of course, the moon is the first thing I saw. And I may have told this story before, but when I got out of the hospital at age 9, okay, big heart surgery. This was a time where, you know, there was no guarantees on anything, okay. And when I came out of the surgery and I was home, the friends of ours, actually the chief of the fire department, gave my parents the money to buy me a telescope, because my parents asked me, "Mark, what would you like? Would you like anything, you know?" And I said, "I'd love a telescope." And I was only kind of being, you know, sort of not, you know, serious, because I didn't think anyone would give me a telescope. Telescopes are expensive, I thought. Next thing you know, I'm getting this telescope. And it shows up, it's a little refractor. And I beat that thing to death over the years just through the usage. And I had so much fun with that. And so I ended up, you know, learning all about the stars with this thing. And there was this one astronomy book that came with it. And I used that book until it literally fell apart in its binding. Then I put it back together, and I used it again because I put it back together with like tape, and I taped the binding back together. So it was very cool, very interesting how that all came to be. And I don't know what it is. I think that the more I looked up in the sky, the more questions I had. You know, and I watch the cars driving by right now. They're going from point A to point B. We're going to go to a party, or I've got to go to my friend's house. I got to go to work. I'm coming home from work, blah, blah, blah. You know, all these people all over the place doing this stuff. Are any of them looking up in the sky? Do any of them even know what's up in the sky? There are people that submit, for instance, for the UFO reports I get, they submit pictures they took of the moon through the trees, but it looked odd to them. They didn't even know it was the moon. I was blown away by these things, and you know, this is the stuff that, you know, you can't make up, man. You know, when people look up in the sky, and they see the trees and they see this bright light coming through, wouldn't you first think, I have to wonder if that's the moon? And then they would try to figure out if it's the moon or not. Well, no. Some people just don't even have that in their minds. And so I kind of made it my mission to educate people about all this stuff. And to just open their eyes. That's all I care about. I want to open the eyes. And, so far it's pretty good. It's working pretty well. I'm like I said, I'm in Connecticut with this telescope. I'm going to move it to Arizona, and it's going to be under a beautiful dark sky. A moon like this tonight, first quarter moon, would probably be like a bright spotlight in a dark area, because you would end up seeing everything around you from a light this bright, in Arizona. But new moon, you wouldn't see anything. When the moon is, in the daytime sky, you wouldn't see anything if it was nighttime. It's very dark. So I'm looking forward to that, And so you see certain things, you say, oh, this is beautiful, and then you want more. And then you do the more, and you say, oh, I want even more. Next thing you know, you're finding a place to put your telescope up high, 2,000 to 3,000 foot or more elevation thing. Oh, let's put the telescope up there. We'll get better views. Good. Less atmosphere. The moon will be so crisp and clear. And it is. Okay. But, the thing is, you can only do so much, within your own budget, for instance. And, but when you have the visual like we have right in front of us now of the moon, you say, wow, this is really something. I'm actually very, very, very happy to look at this, very happy to see this, and I'm very glad to be part of it, And I'm very happy that I was talked into, streaming for the first time. Okay, I was not going to do this. This was actually Paul and Keith and Bill New York Skywatcher who convinced me to stream, and I did. And because of that, this is what we got now. So I'm very happy that they did, because
we'll always be grateful to them for that.
I will for sure myself, because I can't believe just how much fun it's been. It's been one heck of a ride, let me tell you.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of people seeing things in the sky and not sure what they were seeing,
yeah.
We do have a question from chat.
Okay.
It's from Slam's Dunk.
Okay.
He wants to know, and there's a reason why.
Okay.
He wants to know, is there any star that can become bright and then dim again in a matter of minutes? He said he saw something that looked just like Sirius very briefly, but in a dim area of the sky. It was near Pisces Australis, and it was about 2 thumb widths away from it in a dark area.
Pisces Australis. Yeah, the as far as stars that can do that, generally no. I've seen the same thing, and I'll tell you right now, I too was perplexed. I still am, only because I don't know exactly what I was looking at. But I'll tell you what I saw. I was looking out of my dome, and I was looking at the stars, trying to figure out my bearings about where I wanted to go. And I saw this bright star just sitting there. I was like, oh, what the heck? What star is that? That's not a planet. I mean, I know the sky. What's that doing there? I actually consulted the chart. I held up my iPad to the sky and did a virtual thing just to see what it thought it was. I know the sky pretty well myself, but I had to look at this and figure out, what that was. And so I looked at it, and my iPad didn't show anything there. So I then went to the PC in here, and I went into Stellarium to try and bring that up, because I didn't have it on the iPad at that point. And
sorry, could I interrupt this for 1 second?
Yeah.
Keith said if you increase the ISO right now, you should see 2 satellites by the moon. They're close and following each other, just cross the Terminator. So keep your eyes on the screen, guys. We'll see what we can see. Possibly 2 satellites following each other, just crossing the Terminator now. And the Terminator is where the light and the dark meet.
Yep, I'm going to just go over there.
And then we'll go right back to the explanation, Slams. Sorry.
No, it's fine. That is an obvious time to interrupt.
Yeah.
I don't see anything yet.
Intelsat 31.
Intelsat, okay. And where? Near the middle of the Terminator, or where?
I don't know.
Okay.
Said it just crossed the Terminator. By the way, we're getting this information from Keith of P&K Space Imaging. Do go over there, subscribe, hit the little bell.
Yeah, really.
And Intelsat 30 right behind it.
Okay. I increased the ISO and I don't see anything yet, but maybe that's because we might have missed it.
Actually, they are now on top right side of moon.
Oh.
Sorry, top left. Thanks, Keith. Now out in space. Uh-oh.
That's okay. Let me see.
Well, we tried. I mean,
Well, actually, see, the problem is I gotta do it this way. And that, unfortunately, let me try this. This is gonna be a little blown out, but let's go up here.
See, and this is a perfect example about what a great community it is.
Yeah.
Everyone having a telescope at different parts of the world.
You said top left?
Top left.
Okay.
Rare to see two satellites so close following one another.
Okay. I should have been over here. Alright, well, I do see that star there that we have, but that's not it. I'm going to just drop this in down here. Okay, obviously we missed this one, but let me do this.
Daryl saying it's probably long gone.
Yeah, probably, most likely. But I want to do something here. I want to bring us down.
No, but I mean, if you knew where a satellite was at a certain time, you could actually just like follow it with your telescope, right? So it doesn't matter that it's specifically. I mean, it would be cool to see it passing the Terminator and stuff, but
yeah, I mean, I could actually
track it down if we wanted.
Yeah, we could. I can actually follow a satellite. You know, let me just do this. I want to try this first. Okay, hold on. Don't worry.
That's not one to easily give up. Don't you worry.
I don't give up. I mean, I'm not going to find that satellite for sure. I see that star, though. See that star?
I do.
All right. Okay. And now let's pop out for 1 minute and do this.
Oh, he said the satellite tracker is basing from Terryville.
What?
The satellite tracker is basing from Terryville. HIP star.
Oh, well, you know what? I can tell you this. Yeah, there's the star right at the edge.
Do you know which star that is?
I just gotta go look.
See, I know these must be crazy questions, but I mean, to know the thousands that you do know,
well,
when we don't even know really for sure how many are out there, it just kind of seems like if there's that bright of a star near the moon, you should know what it is. I don't know why I always think that, but
no, but actually,
if you land on a star, I assume you know what it is.
Well, no, that's not true, unfortunately, because I'm not up on every single transit and occultation, as they're called. But let's see if there's a way for me to figure this out. Let's go here. Let's go see what we got. Okay. Okay, I see the star. Wait a minute.
Maybe Keith is regretting saying you can zoom in on the moon, and this is just a distraction.
Yeah, right?
Go follow satellites for the night. We want the moon back.
Well, I'm actually still working on another possibility here to be able to find... let's see here, let me get back on this. To be able to find if we can track satellites dynamically. I'd like to do that. Okay, that star, I think it went behind the moon, which is cool. I mean, and it will, you know. And the star was named Lau, L-A-U-E, actually. No, it's not. That was actually the crater on the moon. Sorry. I was trying to find that actual star, and it was actually there. It's in my database, but it wasn't actually a star that was labeled, unfortunately. So we don't have the ability to see it now. No way. All right.
So I was just about to ask.
That was cool, though.
Ronald asked how many satellites are in orbit that we know about, and Keith just said 2,712. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean that's the number of active satellites. But if you actually want to talk about how many actual objects are up in space. Okay?
Yeah, he said satellites of human-built intentional origin.
Right.
Specifically.
Yeah, the actual number of things that we put up into orbit and that are up there, everything from bolts that got away from astronauts to debris after a spacecraft collided with another and destroyed itself. We're talking about close to several 100,000 objects, literally. All right, but we don't, and those have to be tracked, and they are tracked, because if they weren't tracked, then we could, at some point our ship could go right up, a spacecraft could go and get hit by a bolt when it's traveling, at 17,500 miles an hour, and or more likely, as a as the spacecraft is changing its orbit, it could actually end up passing through an orbit where there's something else in the orbit that's not being tracked. And then the thing that's important is something called the delta, the change in speed required to achieve a different orbit. To go higher, you have to slow down. After giving initial energy, you go up, you accelerate into a higher orbit, but then you have to maintain a certain speed. The farther away you go, that speed in orbit's going to be slower. Okay, the lower you are, the speed has to be faster. So when you come back to orbit from a higher orbit down to a lower orbit, you have to accelerate faster in your orbital direction to maintain your orbit. Okay, because keep in mind that all orbits is controlled falling. Okay, it's basically it's a continuous state of falling, but you're going horizontally at just the exact right speed to prevent yourself from actually falling back to Earth. The Earth's trying to pull you down, but you're going horizontal just the right amount, and that's what orbit is. It's a interesting state, actually. So, but that's the way it is. That's how orbit works. And the moon is in orbit around the Earth. It's going at just the right speed so that the Earth can't pull it in, and so that it's not going to work itself away from us. Although it is going away from us at just over 2 centimeters a year. But by the time it gets far enough away so that the tides from the moon are minimal, by that time we're going to be looking at the sun ending its life. So nothing to worry about here. That's something down the line, Okay, let's see now.
Well, your audio is getting a little distorted.
I know. Distorted or just loud?
Distorted.
Oh, my audio, you're saying?
Your audio is distorted, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting, because, is it any better?
Seems to be so far.
Okay, because that might have just been because I had the microphone down, it was doing like this. It might have been rubbing. I don't know. Okay,
Okay, we have questions coming in. We also have someone with another moon story.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm getting all over the place. Hold on, guys. Bear with me. Could you finish? Okay, well, first off, Keith is saying there's another satellite passing. Where?
Yeah, but by the time he tells us, it'll be gone.
Oh my god, so many screens open right now. Hold on. Oh, okay, well, he's saying a lot are crossing the moon path tonight. He's at Echo Star 19. is passing right now.
Where?
Keith, yeah, if you're gonna tell us where they're passing, or do I just assume they're passing the Terminator? I guess you'd only see them on the brighter side passing over, right? No.
Well,
So
if they're,
gained.
they could be, if your camera settings are blowing out the, the bright spot of the moon, then, you could actually see them coming in from the dark side as somewhat illuminated. Okay, but then usually they'll look dark against the brighter moon. So, and at this magnification, we'd have to know exactly where they were to actually see them better, because we can't see them right this second like this. So if I were to zoom in, for instance, and he said, "Oh, it's along the Terminator," well, I could just go up the Terminator like this, say up here, or maybe down here, see it down here. I can't tell you, so don't know. But I'd love to see, he sees satellites all the time, but they're looking at the moon all the time, and for us to actually see one, we'd have to know where it's coming across, and then literally come in like this close,
Yeah, I think someone else is asking what's the furthest you can zoom in. This is it here.
What's that?
And I know not zoom in, but what's the closest you can get? Is this it?
Yes, for now, but I will add more capabilities. Hey, bring Keith in.
We do have other.
Yeah, I know, but he'll be sitting in silence. I want to hear.
Have you met Keith?
Yeah, he was here at the house. I mean, he was in this observatory with me.
I bet he wasn't sitting in silence.
No, he's anything but
Hello,
silent.
Keith.
See?
What's
Hey,
up,
what's
guys?
going on, brother?
I'm just gonna sit over here in silence until something comes up, and I'm just gonna yell at you.
Hey, wait.
No, that would be awesome if you could keep an eye out on the satellites and tell them where and when.
I am, because there's so many like heading towards there, and for some reason crossing right over the face, of the moon.
That would be awesome to catch. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna sit, hang tight here, and I'll let you know if anything else comes up.
Cool. Well, look at this, Keith. I mean, we got Eratosthenes and Copernicus here, and I've actually, as the night's worn on, I actually have watched the light change on Copernicus. We watched it when we first came in. We couldn't see the right side of the central peak of Copernicus, and now we can. So it's really kind of cool.
Yeah, in the last hour or so, it's went up about 3 or 4 percentage points in illumination.
Yeah, and you can see it. Especially when there's a high point to actually be illuminated. So Amanda, going back to what you were going to say, we had more questions that we wanted to get to. Plus, you had someone else that wanted to come in and tell us a story.
Yes. Well, first I interrupted you when we got the first satellite message. You were talking about a star that can get bright and dim again in a matter of minutes.
And I've seen that, and that was freaking me out because I couldn't figure out what it was. And when I looked up to see it after I had consulted my charts and so forth and saw nothing there, even with augmented reality where you can hold your thing up in and show it against the sky and kind of a thing, I didn't see anything there. And so I went to put the thing down on my table here in the observatory, went back and looked up, and it was gone. So it lasted about 20 seconds. So I had to look up and figure out what could that be. Now, here's what I thought. If it was a satellite, you expect satellites to move through the sky, and they do, right? And they don't seem to just hover in the sky. But if the satellite is coming towards you from a long distance, it'll be a foreshortened path. That is to say, the path it's mostly coming towards you and not going, over you left, right, or, above or down. So it'll look like landing lights on an aircraft you can see from almost 100 miles away. And those lights look like they're hovering, Now, could it have been landing lights? Well, no, it couldn't have been. Why? I have a million reasons. I'll tell you why. But first, let's go back to this. If it was a satellite, then there's certain requirements of the satellite to make this happen. First, the satellite would have to have a variable illumination capability. That is to say, maybe it has shiny panels on it and they glare the sun every now and then. Those are very common. Those are called iridium flashers. Iridium, I-R-I-D-I-U-M. Okay, iridium flashers. And what those do is, as they rotate and as they're coming across an orbit, the sun will glare off of them, and you can calculate, predict, and look for these flashers and see them as they appear. And the way they appear is they suddenly get bright in the sky for about, I don't know, 2 seconds, and then they get dim again. I've taken many photos of iridium flashers, and they are just stunning. They're fun. But the key thing here is that when you look at an iridium flasher, it's moving through the sky. So how could it stop? Or how could it look like it's not moving? It could look like it's not moving if there's no other reference points in the sky near it, okay, as this was, and if it's coming from a great distance and flashing from a great distance. In other words, it's farther down range, so its relative motion in the sky is much less than something that's directly overhead or more overhead.
Just a quick interrupt. You got a DirecTV satellite coming in, top right corner of the moon.
Top right corner? Man. Top right corner. Coming in which way? Left to the right or right to left?
Coming right to left.
Right to left. Okay, so it's going to be...
It's gonna clip the top right corner.
So, can you see what I'm showing? Oh, you gotta wait 30 seconds.
I don't have Skype. Yeah, I don't have... let me see Skype here. Hold on. Boop. Yep. If you would move to the right just a tad, you should be able to see... If it's visible, you should be able to see it.
Well, it'd be visible against my against the bright of the moon, right?
Yeah, should be.
It'd be a black dot coming across.
Now, I'm not sure the exact standpoint of where this is taking its ground view from, but it should be right in that general area. I don't know if you'd be able to see it by backing out a little bit. Maybe it won't cross the face from your perspective.
Actually, as I'm thinking about this is Paul, right? You're saying this?
Do what?
Is this Paul telling you this?
No, this is me.
Oh, so this is from Pennsylvania?
No, I have it set up from Terryville.
Oh, well, crying out loud. Then I guess I should be back in, Maybe we'll go to here.
Once again, but there's a lot of points in Terryville that, So
well, no, I mean, but from within Terryville, though, at the relative distance of the moon, you can... Going to the other end of Terryville is not going to change the location on the moon very much of the satellite. So...
Well, put it this way. It's at the Terminator right now on the tracker.
It is, huh?
Yep.
All right.
So it just might be.
All right, so I don't see it, so...
Yep. Well, anyway, just keep an eye out in case anybody sees any satellites. They're around anyway. There's tons of them. For some reason, once across the face of the moon. If anybody, so if you happen to see something floating, just shout it out in the chat, I guess.
Yeah, and then we'll manage the logging of it and everything.
Yes, guys. Top right-hand corner. You can always grab the time for us. That would be greatly appreciated. If you see anything of interest, fly by.
Yeah. Hey Keith, I just want to let you know that today, Cyber Monday, we actually started the store for the creators.
Nice.
They're out and available, and there's a Facebook store available now. People can go and buy them right this second. So
nice.
Yeah, the link's in the chat that Amanda put in. So she'll probably put it in again at some point, and then we'll be able to see.
Yeah.
You can go check them out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Up and running.
Yeah. Do you see it?
Okay.
Did you see it? Did you see it, Keith?
Did I see what?
The store? Yeah.
I've seen somebody post something, but I didn't actually click on it yet.
Oh, okay. All right. No worries.
Yeah, it has a whole bunch of individual pictures of a whole bunch of craters that he has and different prices and all the measurements and the names of what specifically it is and stuff. So it looks awesome. I mean, I didn't go through every single one yet, obviously.
That's
I
fair.
just read about
That's
it, but
fine. That's perfectly fine.
I did check them out. Yeah, looks
Cool.
great. It's in the store section of FX Models, Planetary Replica Division.
Yeah.
And I just threw it in chat too. Okay, did you finish the explanation for Slam's Dunk yet? Because we have callers backing up. Callers, plural.
But yeah, my bottom line here, let me just turn down the music a little bit. The bottom line here is that I didn't, I never actually found out what I was actually seeing, you know? So I didn't know. I didn't know what I was seeing. I mean, it was a very interesting thing. I imagined, the only thing that made sense actually was that I was looking at, I was looking at a satellite that was being deprojected in its orbit, and so it was coming toward me, all right, or away from me, and the glare and the reflection of it just went very bright, and then it went down. Now, it wouldn't be a meteor coming in that's heading right for you. Those are something that lasts, you know, a split second, and you'll see a flash. If it's a meteor coming right towards you, then, you know, the path of the meteor is not the long little line you see in the sky typically of a meteor, but it would just be a point of light that gets brighter and then dimmer, and, you know, within like half a second, you know, or so, a second at the most. So we didn't see that, you know. So
I hope that answers your question, Slams.
it's as best as we can do, because, you know, there was nothing there that would do that, and stars certainly won't do that. I can tell you that for sure. So what do you got, Amanda? We got more?
I have, yeah, well, we're going to take a new caller and have a few new moon stories.
Okay.
And
Keith, you're still hanging with us?
don't frighten the people off, Keith. They know Mark and I are friendly. Some of them have not experienced you yet.
No, they know, Keith.
They'll survive.
Yeah. Keith, you're coming up here between Christmas and New Year's, right? You're going to show up here?
Yeah, that's the plan anyway.
All right. Just let me know the date, and I'll make sure that I'm as far away from here as I can be. No, just kidding.
If that's the case, I'm going to make way with a brand new observatory.
I guess
back
I
of my
should.
truck.
I guess I should probably. I should probably not say that then. I have an old one you can take. Bum, bum. So Amanda, what do we got then?
Hold on.
Was there any questions that I needed to pursue?
There are some questions. I just want to
Okay.
try to get this caller through. Again, sorry, some people are new to Skype. We're working on it.
Okay. All right, I'm also going to while we're
well,
waiting.
here I'll ask that. Tana had a question. Our good friend Tana, who I haven't
Hey, hi,
seen
Tana.
in ages.
I haven't
How
heard
are
from
you,
you in a long
sweetheart?
time.
She wants to know, can you please explain what a Dyson sphere star is?
Yeah, a Dyson sphere is really interesting because it's a concept that tries to consider what or theorize what people.
Hold on a second, please.
It's a
Not you, Mark. Sorry.
a Dyson sphere is what a advanced civilization might do to capture most of the energy from their star. Why would they do that? Because they need to, in order to carry out these higher energy processes they need to do, like generate enough energy to make an interstellar ship, or provide energy for a number of planets that they manage in multiple solar systems across several stars. Okay, it's a very, very much higher level possibility for storing and acquiring energy. And what is it? It is ostensibly, if you look at it, it's a construct which is impossible to make, by the way, by all standards, but I can explain how it might actually work, where you literally encase your entire star in a gigantic sphere. Thus, on the inside surface of that sphere, every bit, 100% of that stellar energy can be captured. Now, that isn't practical because there's no known methodology for us, or even an advanced species probably, that can build such a device around a star. The reason is because if you look at the volume or the surface area of a sphere, okay, and you calculate the amount of material necessary to create such a thing, it would be monstrous. It would require mass of many solar systems, everything in the solar system, made into, say, some type of new form of metal. And I say new form of metal that can withstand the forces that would be on it from this giant sphere, because the star's gravity would be pulling on that sphere on all sides, and so nothing could withstand that type of gravitational force. However, there is a way that the Dyson sphere can work, and this is why Tabby's star is so interesting, because the Dyson sphere itself is impossible to make by all accounts. However, something called a Dyson swarm is not. A Dyson swarm is a bunch of satellites, for instance, that would be put up in orbit around the star, and they would channel energy from the star to a certain common point, perhaps. And that common point could be, say, in a collection station over the planet, okay, that's requiring the energy. And so probably microwaves too. And this is something that would be useful in generating a higher energy consumption for a civilization. So a Dyson swarm is probably the more practical approach. And so, but that's the Dyson sphere is the construct of the whole sphere, and the Dyson swarm is probably what would really happen.
Very cool. I hope that helps Tana and everybody else, because it's something you hear about, but until you actually sit down and break it up, you know, you don't really know.
I'm moving to an object
here. We
here.
do have story time. Our
All
good
right.
friend Ronald is calling in. He's also the owner of ERRTradio.com.
That's right.
Radio.com. And Keith, he also plays your shows. He plays P&K Space Imaging, SkyTour LiveStream. I think you play Bill NY Skywatcher and Astro Imaging Live, and what's David Brewer's Astro Livestream, or whatever his is. I forget exactly, but yeah, and it's great because it's like Astro Imaging Live, where you can pop on and see who's doing what, and great promotion. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Ronald.
Yeah,
you had some stories?
Yeah, so basically I do post all of the astronomer guys that do their things on the online live stream, whatever they're live streaming at the time. Have fun sharing it, and you guys have so much information. And first of all, I wanted to say thank you, Mark and Amanda, for listening to my story the other night. It felt good to share it.
That's
and
great.
Explain some of what I was going through and what I have gone through, and to know that there are other people in that situation that might be afraid to share it, you know.
That's why we appreciate callers like you that will be the first one to take the steps.
And it's good to be able to share that and not be judged, or not to be criticized, or to be put down, or to be put in a nut house, or whatever the case was.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. No, we would never do that. We would never criticize you.
I have a couple of funny stories to get off the seriousness of that.
All right.
And let that on the back burner and have a funny story. I used to own a Dobsonian 8-inch telescope.
Oh, yeah.
And it looks like a cannon.
It
actually.
does. It sure does.
So a friend of mine and I in California, I was born and raised in California, and we went to the El Dorado Hills, probably on government land or possibly private land, but I don't think that we were supposed to be up there. Well, anyway, we were at sunset looking at the night sky and stuff like that, and to anybody around the military area in that location in El Dorado Hills, they're trying to figure out, what are these people doing up here, what looks like a cannon to them,
Right.
you know, from wherever they were looking at it from. All of a sudden, here comes this giant helicopter with all these lights coming up over the horizon, and that's all I see in the view of the telescope is all the helicopter lights, and it's like, what the hell is going on? I was like scared to death for a minute.
That's funny.
But I got off that hill pretty quick, though.
Man.
That Dobsonian is not easy to move.
No, it's not. But you know something? It probably became very light when you saw, a potentially armed machine coming towards you at high speed.
I got to explain myself and what we were doing, and they all laughed, and of course they thought it was funny.
I actually have a story about that too, actually, that can add to that, Ronald. I was actually, my friend Jim, at one point, he said to me, Mark, we got to go down to Florida. You got to come with me. You're going to be my astronomer. We got to look at a comet that's coming through. All right, I'll go down with you. So he paid my way. He did everything that, he basically, took care of all my expenses because he was desperate to make sure he understood what he was looking at in the sky, when we got there. So what we did was he actually, we got a hotel room, and in the hotel room where we were going to just crash, okay, after our observation, we put our stuff in there, and the first thing we noticed is that there was blood all over the closet doors. We found out later that someone had been killed in that room the night before, and they just didn't bother to clean it up, and they rented it or they gave it to us anyway. Okay,
Ouch.
so that was the first fun thing. A lot of fun there. Well, then we chartered a light plane to fly over these keys because we wanted to get the telescopes out to a special area that was not, as light polluted, and it was remote. So this guy in the plane was more than happy to, fly us around, but he was flying us very low. And then he said, hey, I know where there's a beach where people don't wear any clothes. Let's go look. And I'm like, no, wait, no, don't do that. And he literally flew over the top of the beach and turned the plane up on its side. And we were looking straight down at the ground at this point and seeing, exactly what he said we'd see, okay? And they're all like, shaking their fists at us, and he's laughing, and it's like, wow, so I didn't know what we were getting into. Well, then we ended up taking our telescopes out to this other remote key, and that we could actually drive to. And we had to drive on these little fragile, very rickety, narrow coral roads. And we got out there, and we were right on the water, and it was beautiful. And we saw the comet. I actually saw the Southern Cross, which is gorgeous. Okay, it was on the horizon on the water, and I photographed it. It was just beautiful. And as I was sitting there photographing it, I was sitting down on the sand, and I had the telescope on my case. And I had my legs out, on either side and looking through the telescope. And all of a sudden I feel something, tugging on my shoe, on my shoelaces. And I turn on the little red light, and there's a raccoon. And he's chewing on my shoelaces. Okay.
Mark, just a heads up, another DirecTV satellite about to cross the moon in about 20 seconds.
Okay.
And we're all looking at
Top-
a black screen.
Top
Well,
right side.
Yeah, I was actually not on a black screen. I was trying to get a bead on this, but all right, I'll go back. Okay, it's top right side.
Yep.
Okie-dokie. Let's do that. Let's do this first. All right, get rid of this.
From this viewpoint, it looks like it's just starting to cross now.
Okay. And this is from your perspective, and this is the Terryville perspective, right?
Yeah, from Terryville, Connecticut.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so let's go back to the live view, and let's do this.
Currently halfway between the edge of the moon and the Terminator.
Okay, trying to find it again. Oops, sorry. All right. Halfway between the edge of the moon and the Terminator. Let's go see. Are you actually able to see this on the on Paul's stream at all? You actually able to see any of these?
We're not streaming.
You're not. Why not?
Okay, I don't see no picture I see it on the Skype, but not on the main video.
And it's just coming to the Terminator.
Okay, well, I don't see any satellite here. Is it near Plato? Like to the left of Plato?
It's actually... Well, it's dead center now.
Center on the moon?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said from the upper left side, upper right side.
It was 45 seconds ago.
Okay.
It's moving across now, and it's getting towards the edge of the darkened side of the moon now, heading off.
Okay. I wonder if we
See,
can...
like, is there a name for, like, the middle of the Terminator? Like, instead of going up and down, going left and right? Like, so when you say the Terminator, that could be anywhere along the
Yes, it can.
the stripe, right?
Yeah,
So to narrow it down, if you don't know the names of craters, are there, like, certain points that like a quarter of a way up is called this, the halfway point is called this, anything like that? No.
It seems like most of them are coming in like right below Plato, that trajectory. So if you go, say, 2 to 3 degrees below Plato and run that in a straight line diagonal downward, like down and to the right, that's where most of them are coming from.
Okay, so what that implies...
I mean, even from this distance, would we not notice them? Like, we'd see them blinking.
Well, it says visibility. I mean, every satellite that's passing so far says visibility is 100%. So that means they're 100% illuminated. So they're easily visible.
Yeah, but I would think if there's that many passing right in front of the moon, like, how are we not noticing them just out of the corner
They
of
could
our
be
eyes?
getting faded out just by the moon's light.
That's right.
You know, they could just be swallowed by that big, light source behind them. I'm surprised we don't
what
see
about
them.
the dark half?
Yeah, exactly.
Shouldn't
I'm
they just
surprised we don't
appear-
see them
yeah.
off and like coming in anymore.
Okay, I'm gonna change a battery because my battery has died.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, that's okay.
I wanted to hear the rest of that raccoon story.
Yeah, I'll finish now. And actually, the raccoon isn't the story. That was just,
It is in my world.
right, but it's just the thing that happened. So my friend Jim and I laughed at this raccoon, and I didn't disturb him. Animals and I get along very well for some reason, and so when I'm looking at the watching this raccoon, I thought about what a cute little guy this is, and then we're photographing the comet, and then Jim says, "Mark, there's a boat coming," and I'm like, "What? There's a boat? Where's the boat?" And he says, "It's not using any lights. It's got its lights off." And I went, "Uh-oh." So we didn't realize it at the time, but we stumbled into a drug den, and we were sitting on the sand, facing our telescopes out, and as soon as the boat got to the shore, these people jumped off the boat. And these other people came walking up in the dark, and they're taking things off, and we're hoping no one sees us, okay? And just then, I see red and blue lights. I see all kinds of things. I hear, get down, show us your hands. Like, whoa, what's going on? And, we were like, now besieged by like these authorities that were watching us the whole time. We had no idea. And they ended up going after and arresting all these people on the boat. They grabbed us and said they thought we were the spotters. See, we had these telescopes. They thought we were spotting. And I looked at them and I said, "Oh, heck no, we're astronomers. We're actually looking at the comet." And like, "Oh, the comet? Really? Where is it?" And this was at like 3 a.m. And they stayed with us until 6 a.m. And I was giving them a sky tour, basically, from 3 a.m. until 6. And we became great friends by the end of the night. And when the sun started to rise, we lost our stars. We all shook hands, and they said, "Hey, be careful coming across that coal road on the way back to the mainland." I went, "Thank you guys so much. It was really fun." After all the terror, I said it was really fun, and they laughed, and it was like, wow. And so that's the story I had with just going on an astronomy expedition to Florida, for crying out loud.
You see, now I have the gold prospecting expeditions like that, where I run into funny stuff with animals and things like that, and it's just crazy stuff that you run into. But another funny story I had about my Dobsonian is the same friend that I was there on the El Dorado Hills. We decided to go camping, and he had a Volkswagen Campo van. Remember those? Or maybe it was Dodge. Maybe it was Dodge Campo van, big Dodge Campo van thing. Or Ford, maybe it was, I don't know, it was one of those older ones.
Mm-hmm.
It was a campo van of any kind, it was big, full size, I think. But anyway, we had my scope in there, we had all our camp gear in there and everything like that. And so we decided to go to this cool place. We parked the van right beside the sign where it said no overnight parking. Right?
Of course you did.
So we parked it right there. And we lugged the scope up on top of this giant rock. And I mean, this thing, you know how heavy a Dobsonian is, 8-inch, f4.5. It's a pretty heavy piece of equipment.
Yep.
The cradle itself weighs about 25 pounds or so.
Mm-hmm. And you carry it separately from the telescope,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so each of us have a piece of it, and we're trying to climb up the rock with this thing, and finally get it up there, get it all set up, and then the moon starts to come up after all that, right? It was a clear night until the moon comes up, and then
Yep,
it's too
lucky
bright.
you.
And then we decided, oh, we'll just camp up here and just sleep on the rock, because it was still kind of warm from the sun, so
Yep.
it stayed warm for a little while. And the only thing we didn't realize, though, is that there were deer that were going around the bottom of the rock, and they were mad at us because they had a lake that was right there, and they were going across, and we were in their way. We weren't really in their way, but they smelled us, and they, oh, humans are here, darn it.
Yep.
And so they got all mad, so I could hear them. They were stomping around the rock and breathing hard and getting all upset and everything like that. It's like, I'm not going to go there down there now.
That's funny.
No way.
Well, they're only deer. They're going to run anyway. But,
yeah,
you know,
right.
if
So
you knew they were
we stayed
deer.
up. I didn't know what they were, but then, of course, there you got Bigfoot and everything, all kind of weird stuff happening there.
Yep.
Mountain lions and bear and everything like that.
Well,
And it's like, I'm not going to go down there and find out what it is. I'll just stay up here until sunlight. And I'll get down there.
and as
so
long
I
as it's
did.
not freezing like in the dome now, you know. I'll tell you
Right.
this. You know, on the way up to our observing spot, we had a bunch of us in the car. And my friend Al was driving the car. And he was a very paranoid driver. He would drive no more than 2 miles an hour over the speed limit, okay? So we're very impatient, and he's taking, you know, in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, he's driving 32. In a 25-mile-an-hour zone, he's driving 25 or 26. And it's like, oh, come on, Al, it's okay, you know. So he finally gets on a road where it's 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, and his car couldn't go 50 miles an hour. It could only go 45. So he was driving on the road, and as he was driving, I had the windows down, and I actually I made a noise like Bigfoot. I went, "Rrrr," and I slammed the car really hard with my hand outside. And then everybody in the back seat was reacting. They caught on right away, and they went, "Oh, did you see that? Oh, I know, it was a Bigfoot. I think Al, stop the car. We gotta get this thing, you know." And he's like, I'm not stopping. He was panicked, and we got to our observing site. And all he was doing the whole night was walking around looking into the distance to see if we were followed by Bigfoot, you know, and he was like really paranoid. And he got so scared that on the way home, he drove all the way back 30 miles with the emergency brake on.
Oh, wow.
He ruined the emergency brake. It was our fault, you know. But you know, that's not the worst thing we did. You know, I mean, I was actually the president of the astronomy club, and so I tried to behave myself. But when I didn't, it was spectacular. And one of the things that we did was we actually this is really, really bad. We actually made a telescope that you know, was an exact replica of the former club president's Celestron 8, which was his baby. Okay, so we painted a cardboard tube orange because it was a Celestron that was orange, and we put like broken glass into it, and you know, he was very paranoid about us touching his telescope. He wouldn't let us touch it. So here we are. What was that? It sounded like a hissing snake.
Oh, that'd be breathing.
Oh, sorry.
E-cig?
So then, as we're walking around, you know, Tom decides. His name is Tom. Tom decides he has to walk away for a little while, you know, and go check something out. Now, what we did was, his telescope was in a certain place, and all we did was put our fake telescope, which we had hidden, in front of it so that it looked like it was his telescope from a distance. Now, of course, it's nighttime. You can't see very well. So we had people stand on the other side of our fake telescope and in front of his. So it looked like, you know, it was his telescope. And I was standing at the fake telescope, you know, full of broken glass, okay, and full of, you know, on a cheap tripod. You couldn't really tell what it looked like from a distance, but you could see the orange barrel, and Tom would immediately think it was his scope. And he turned around, and we started the process that was going to get him to go either have a heart attack or kill us. And we started to pretend we were fighting. And Tom comes running back from about 35, 40 feet away, and we start fighting. Come on, cut it out, cut it out. And then we just kick his telescope. It goes over, you hear crash, you hear all this glass breaking. And he's like, what have you done? And we all said, who cares about your stupid telescope? And we're fighting, pretending we're fighting, going back and forth, back and forth. Oh my gosh. Then he comes over, and we just start all laughing, and we back away, and he sees his telescope still perfectly set up. Okay, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you guys. Oh man, I can't say it without cracking up. It was the funniest thing we ever did, and actually the meanest thing we ever did, because his scope cost him every penny he had, and we made it look like we broke it. And meant to. I mean, that was the worst part. We made it look like we meant to. Now, originally we were gonna take it and push it down the rocky slope at the dam. This was at a dam, and we were way up in the air on this earthen dam, which had rocks on the on one side, and we were gonna just like clam, sham, blam, blam, just like run it down and make it fall over the rocks, but we didn't want to, ruin our welcome at the dam, because we had private access to it, and we did not want to, leave garbage on the slope, and we wouldn't be able to go out and get it. It would just be unkind, to do that and leave it out there. So we just crashed it over in the parking lot. Oh man, that was really mean.
Now, I had a question about the moon cycle.
Yeah.
Now, I had a book about the moon, the lunar cycle, and I can't remember what the title of it was. It might have been the moon in 28 days or whatever, or 29. I don't know. A moon in a month or moon in 30 days. I don't know. It was something about it showed each daily position of the light of the moon. I'm wondering, has there or have any of you ever done a moon cycle observation of the whole month, and been able to with the weather wise?
I know that I have, but that's just because, when you're a kid and you don't really know the sky yet, all you have is the moon. And so I would look at the moon and watch it change night to night. But I've never actually photographed it night to night. That's something I haven't done.
That is one thing this book had a project to do, and it actually had pictures of it for each day.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if anybody of our community here has done that, or if there's any plans to do anything like that. And again, I realize weather kind of sucks, and we don't always have a whole
We're
month
trying.
of clear skies.
Yeah.
But in today's world of technology, we should be able to find someone. Of course, it would look different from each vantage point. I know that. But
Yeah, a little bit.
know.
A little bit.
Maybe on the East Coast, we all did it from the East Coast. Somebody said of a clear sky on each day, and be able to compare the pictures. But if I can mention my website again, and then I'll let you guys go and get another caller in.
Sure.
And my website is www.errtradio or ertradio.com.
Okay.
And I post your videos on my site because I enjoy astronomy so much that I just love to share it. And just as my gold prospecting stuff, I post that kind of stuff on there because I don't want that to die. I want that to live on. I want people to be interested in that kind of stuff.
Nice, Ron. Thank you for that.
I believe that there's a connection between both what I call hobbies. And I know maybe you take it more serious than a hobby, but I consider it a hobby, and so probably do a lot of others.
Right.
And even gold prospecting is more than a hobby to me. It's a lifestyle to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take that very seriously, and I want to make sure that people know about it. And I feel connected to, the universe or creation, whatever you want to call it. And I feel like I'm part of it when I'm taking part in it, whether it be gold prospecting or, astronomy.
Yeah.
So,
that's
and
wonderful.
You guys really help
And
I'm glad
hate
you
to
do.
interrupt. I hate to interrupt,
Go ahead.
but we have 2 satellites heading towards the moon. They're well off. They're about 3 minutes out, and it's looked like they're going to cross directly in the middle of the moon from bottom right to top left.
Okay.
I'll let you go, and thank you for the call again, and we'll
Yeah,
call again.
I threw your link in chat, and again, thank you on behalf of everyone that you help promote, not just Mark and Keith here, but you know, Bill and our other friend David and everybody that you promote. It's
Yeah.
really nice of you, and
Yes, thank
it's
you.
because of people like you that we do this. I mean, you know,
You're welcome.
well,
Yeah.
some people might still be out doing this for themselves, but to take the time to set up to share with us, you know, it's a wonderful community, and people
Yeah.
doing what you do to share it is really, really appreciated.
Yeah, it's great,
All right.
Ronald. Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much. We'll talk to you next time.
Okay,
Definitely.
thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
These are looking like they're going to be like dead, like a perfect diagonal cut through the middle of the moon.
When you say diagonal cut,
From bottom right to top left.
okay, bottom right, top left?
Yep. That's
Okay.
how they're going to be coming.
Okay, so if I come into medium
I'm
here.
gonna run and get a pop, and you guys look for the satellite. And when I get back, we will add our next color, perhaps.
You should,
Alright.
yeah, you should, let me see.
Okay. I'll be
Actually,
back.
now they're drifting a little bit to the north side.
What's that mean?
So they're on that diagonal trajectory, they're a
Yeah.
little bit further up, not down. Like you're on the downside now. You want to go up a little bit. Yeah, we're off to the right there.
little more to the right?
A little higher. Right. A little bit higher. They keep the moon's not keeping up with them. Man, they're just gonna. It looks like now they're just gonna clip the top.
Okay, well, let's just go to the
corner.
top.
Yeah, right there, right there. Whoa, whoa.
Okay.
Now right there, you should be able to see them because I'm looking at Plato. Yes, you should be able to see them from this view.
Okay.
If we do, I mean, it's literally going to be crossing like right in front of you.
Okay. And this is
It's
the
one behind the other.
prediction. This is the prediction based on
Satellite track.
and well, the latest orbital elements, I assume.
Mhm.
Orbital
The first
elements.
one is
yeah.
the
go
first
ahead.
one's supposed to be Echo Star, which is entering the moon now,
Okay.
which I'm looking for on your feed. I was hoping to get one.
I know, really.
Jeez. See, that's what I'm saying. Like maybe your point is just a little off, where it might be like a little lower than what it is on here.
Well, I
Or a
mean,
little
I
higher.
could just go hunting for it too. If I just drop down again a little
Yeah,
bit.
because the one's like right in the lit spot right now. I mean, it's there, and it looks like from my vantage point, it's just north. Well, it's going to head just to the south side of Plato.
Really.
So it's from my perspective,
So maybe we just need to be in more.
it's possible. It might be like really small that we just.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be a very large satellite.
Yeah, well, that first one I said is an Echo Star. It's starting to hit the Terminator now, and the other one just entered the moon, and that's an Anik G1.
And where is that one?
That one just entered the moon
From where?
from the same spot. They're on the same track.
Okay.
Come on, show your face, you dumb satellite.
Damn, right, come on. This
Darn it. How cool would that be able to track it and actually see it?
I know it.
Now you have the first satellite moving off the
Okay.
moon just about, and the second one starting to get near the Terminator.
Okay.
Darn.
Well, I can go back and look, Is it below Plato like this, same way?
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Should be right in that area.
It could just be that it's not big enough to actually...
I wonder if it's on, maybe it's on a projected path, like a predetermined projected path, and maybe, say, the actuals might be a little bit behind, from what the computer models say.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That could be.
Maybe not by much, but maybe like,
Yeah.
a minute or so. Darn.
Wow.
I thought we would get one. I mean, them two are like right in line with one another, just following one another.
Yeah. But again, they might be small.
Yeah.
Like I said to you the other night, there was one where in the crater Aristarchus, it looked like, there was a famous video showing they said it was a spaceship taking off from the moon, out of Aristarchus. I think what we were seeing was a geostationary satellite. Okay.
You know what would you be able to enter some kind of coordinates, actually go to there with your telescope?
Go to where?
Go to actually where it says the satellite is?
Yeah, actually, there's if I can bring up the satellites on my application here that I go to places, then I could actually then
I
go
got
to
all
where
the
it is.
information for it.
Yeah, but the thing is, I have to have them on the application here and see
okay.
them, and then I could do it. The sky's getting a little rough. I got clouds and stuff here too, so we're not seeing a perfectly clear thing here, unfortunately.
Any luck with your satellites?
No siree, ma'am.
Okay, well, I don't know if I'm interrupting anything. I just got back and conversations seemed like there was a interjection. So
Amanda, you're allowed to interrupt. You know that. You're one of the people that can interrupt.
And everyone there is my witness. Everyone in chat heard that.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me. I'm just gonna just take us to another place beside the moon right now. I'm just gonna check out something.
Oh, we can't leave the moon yet.
We can't?
No, we have a caller.
Oh, okay.
And it may be a first time on air period caller. I'm not 100% sure on that.
All right.
Definitely a first to the show. First time I believe I'm speaking to them on air. Long time loyal fan, listener, wonderful person. I'm so excited.
All right.
With a confession. And let's try to add our first email
confession
caller to the show.
What? Someone's gonna confess something?
We'll see. Hello, D.
Oh, D.
Hi, D. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
I am well.
Hey,
Welcome
D.
to the show.
Welcome to SkyTour LiveStream. It's a pleasure to have you here. You make such positive contributions to this community. Let me tell you.
That's my girl right there.
That's right.
Hey, Keith, what's up? I'm fangirling over here, y'all.
I think you're
anyone
probably
that
the
hangs
super
in these
fan.
chats knows D.
She's a super fan. Super fan. She does good things for us.
Thank you, guys. That's
Of course.
And one hell of a moderator.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, watch her with a wrench, boy. Holy cow.
Yeah. D, where are you actually located, D?
So I'm actually in right outside of Toronto in the GTA area, but I grew up in Philadelphia, not too far, I guess, a couple hours from Keith.
Go Eagles.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Cool.
Now, we were asking for moon stories, and you threw a little confession into chat, and Keith might fall off his chair. I don't know if he knows this or not. Did you want to tell them what you told me in chat?
Yes. Okay. So I know everybody's going to laugh at me, but I don't care.
No.
I have, it's okay to laugh. Seriously. My kids give me hell over it. I have actually been scared of the moon for a long time. Like if I'm outside and it's quiet and it's just me and the moon and the stars, I get chills down my back. I feel like somebody's watching me and I have to leave the situation immediately.
Interesting.
And it's been like that since I was a teenager. Like if my mom would tell me to put the trash out in the backyard and the moon was shining down on top of the trash can, I would tell her I can't do it. And she would threaten me and I'm like, you're just gonna have to beat me. I'm not doing it.
Wow. You know, there's not a lot of people in this world that actually have selenophobia.
Ooh,
but
there's a term for it.
There is actually a term for it. And it's actually called selenophobia, and it's basically the fear of the moon. Moonlight, or even like darkless or moonless nights can even fall in it.
I'm okay with people. Like if I'm in a crowd of people, I'm fine. It's just when I'm by myself, because this is the thing. When people always talk about, especially on this channel, going into space and looking into space. And I'm just like, dude, we are a rock in space. Mm-hmm. We are in space. And so you can ignore it during the day, but at night when the blue sky goes away and you're looking at the stars, I just feel like somebody's looking back at me. So I'm a little bit of a chicken when it comes to that, but that's it. I don't
Now,
have any.
That's a
Well,
great
no.
story, Dee. And I gotta say, I actually wrote a poem about the night sky, and it ended with, what is that I see? Is that someone else out there looking at me? And that was, in reference to the other stars. When you're looking at the beautiful panoply of stars over your head, it was based on my conviction that we have more civilizations out there, and they're all looking up and wondering the same thing, perhaps. Some of them are.
But my fear also comes out of a little bit of respect too. Like, I respect the fact that we are so small in this entire universe.
Yeah.
And so it's just like
It's just crazy that you're a moderator on a lot of like moon channels.
I
And
know,
it's
that's
funny.
why I was surprised.
She's fighting her phobia, by actually immersing
that's-
herself in it.
That's what I was going to say, because one of the main treatments for selenophobia is basically something that they call exposure therapy, which basically like involves the person to go outside on dark moonless nights, and then when the moon's out, and have a look at the moon under controlled conditions, which might be exactly what she's doing when she's watching the stream. It's under controlled conditions. It's actually really fascinating.
I think
it's
that
not that severe. Don't start diagnosing me, Keith. It's not that severe. Like, I mean, seriously, I can go out and look at the moon. Like, one night when I think somebody was streaming, and I decided to take my binoculars and my daughter, and we live across the street from a park, and go across the street to the park and look up at the moon. And it was cool until we heard coyotes, and I was like, see, that's why I don't go outside. I leave that to you guys.
Yeah.
We have coyotes here too. We have black bear and stuff like that. And so far I haven't had my observatory raked by the claws of a bear. I have had coyotes running right around here, and I sometimes have to wait to go back in the house because I'm not afraid of coyotes at all. I just when I open the door, I have two dogs that'll make a beeline for them and just go after them. I had it before. I had it happen. Where one of my dogs is an Australian cattle dog, and the thing is just it was taken in a drug bust, so it came off the streets, the hard streets. Okay, this dog is a street dog, and it doesn't have a fear of anything. Not even the dog catcher who had to come try and get it one day. It sat there taunting him. So, and her name is Dingo. So, Dingo.
The dingo ate my baby.
That's right. Dingo ate my baby. Yeah. And actually, it turned out that the dingo did eat her baby. They found the baby clothes in the dingo den, actually, years later. So that the woman
happy
was.
Story.
No, that was a good story because she was actually, she was vindicated. So anyway, yeah. So that's pretty cool. But
Well,
Dee,
I have a question for you, Dee.
Yeah.
Based on what Keith was saying, like, when you talk about like going out to take out the garbage and it's just you and it's dark and it's the moon, I get that because that's like the start of every horror movie. But
thank you. That's good for her.
No, but like, okay, well, what if you're like in your bedroom at night with your window open and the moonlight is shining in? Does that bother you too, or?
I can no. I can look at that. That's fine, but it does startle me. Like, I don't like to be in my bed and open my eyes and my eyeball is on the moon. It irritates me, but I won't get up and close the window. I'll just scoop my head so it's not in my face.
Okay, so it's not necessarily moonlight, and
no, it's not that severe. It's just the feeling of I just feel so small and so insignificant, and I feel like the universe is so big, and I realize we're hurtling through space right now. It just that part of it freaks me out. My kids laugh at me ungodly when they found out. They're just mean. They're like their mama, right? They don't give me anything.
I think every one of us has had that moment where the realization sets into how small we really are.
Yeah.
For most of us, anyway, that's when it clicks, where we start getting the interest. I don't know about, you guys, but for me, that's what it was anyway.
Yeah.
Looking up does that. Like, sometimes on a really, really dark night, if your eyes have adjusted to the dark and you look up, it really gives me a feeling of vertigo. I mean, it doesn't make me scared, but it makes me feel like I'm going to fall over because I'm not even sure I'm standing on the ground. Like, it almost feels like I'm standing sideways or something, and I can't orientate myself because it's just so overwhelming. I totally get that, Dee.
Yeah, I understand that feeling too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I
but
like
the
science,
fear, I don't
right?
know.
I've always
Yeah.
been involved in science in some kind of way. I was in a program when I was in high school called Window into Science Enrichment, where we did a little bit of astronomy and chemistry and
Nice.
biology. And I went to Centralia, Pennsylvania, and saw how those houses were being affected by underground fires and all this stuff. So I've always liked it.
Oh wow.
I even did an internship in a hospital. So why I'm in the retail business right now, I don't know. But somewhere along the way, I messed up. That's why I told you, Mark, to adopt my kids to get them
That's funny. That's so funny.
shape their young minds.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Because I basically think of everyone's kids are kind of like my adopted kids. Because I'm always, giving kids things and doing stuff like that. Like I told you the other night, I gave this little 8-year-old an 8-inch Dobsonian. That I had here that I had bought for, myself, but then decided, well, I've got this big scope, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use that other one, so I gave it to this kid because the father, the kid's father, was just so good to me and just gave it himself, didn't charge me a dime. When I was in the hospital, he came over, and as I said yesterday or the day before, he rebuilt my front steps and my porch for me, it's great, it was beautiful, but the wood was getting old, and he did it all over with this, top of the line stuff, and didn't charge me. That's like, how do you repay that? You repay it by doing something good for his kids. And so that's why his son got this $300 telescope, for
Wow.
free, and it's actually still here. He has to come get it, but, and I didn't tell Keith where it is because he would have taken it,
If it's still there in December, I'm gonna take it.
No, it won't be here.
It's just for safekeeping.
Yeah, right.
I'll bring it back
There's-
eventually.
There's a cool video on YouTube. I only saw it recently, but I think it first came out in the 70s or something.
Yeah.
And I think it was called The Power of 10.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I teach that class.
Now, Dee, show your kids that if you want to get, a visualization of how small we really are. I think it starts off on like 2 people on a blanket having a picnic or whatever. And they're like, this is, 10 inches away from them. And then this is 10 feet away from them. And this is 10 miles away from them.
Yeah.
And it goes and goes and goes until
Until
like
you're-
you're so far out of the Milky Way galaxy. I mean, there's not even a chance to see Earth,
You're actually at the
and
edge
then
of the known
they
universe.
zoom back in, and
Yeah.
then they start going smaller and smaller to like what's inside like
The
your blood
cells.
cells, and yeah,
and beyond, until you're in
that-
the DNA and then individual protons and neutrons and electrons and then
Oh,
the,
it's
the
crazy,
quarks
yeah.
and stuff inside of a proton. So yeah, it was really, really good. And I actually had a book called Powers of 10. It was that, okay. But I used to teach this class where I would go and do this in a way that kids would just like sit there with their mouths agape, going, "Wow," And then that's key. And that realization, that type of thing is very important. I'm actually going to move to something else now, and no one can say no because I'm doing it. Not to worry. I'm doing this now because my feet are getting really cold. So I may not be able to keep this up for much longer here. So
yeah, we did have some more questions too.
That's
Can
fine.
we get to those while you?
Oh,
zoom?
absolutely.
Well, guys, I'll let you go. I'll go back into chat. Hi, chat. What's up?
Listen to
Angie,
Dee.
thank
In the house. So
Thank
is this
you,
your
Mark.
first is this your first on-air call period? Have you ever called into Bill? or anything?
Yeah, I actually talked to Bill a couple weeks ago, but that was he called my personal cell phone. I was
Oh,
talking
okay.
to him about the person that we had an issue with in chat, and I wanted him to talk to me about it. So we discussed some, and I fangirled on him too. But
Yeah, I'm
I
still
can't
waiting to hear
help
that
it.
story.
you guys are minor celebrities, really. So anyway,
Well-
thank you, Keith, and thank you, Amanda. You do a great job supporting Mark, and we all really appreciate it in chat.
Oh,
Trust
please
me.
do.
No. Thank
Dee,
you.
we be nothing without you, Dee. So don't even play that game.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, Dee, now that we're friends on Skype, anytime you want to call into any show or, anything, if you have a question, send me a message. I don't think you're on Facebook yet, are you? Is that the
10
next
seconds.
I hate with a capital H Facebook.
Oh.
I
Well,
refuse to join Facebook.
There's
I
a
just-
smart
Well,
woman.
I got in contact with you somehow, and I'm really, really appreciated that, you did, because that's the thing. I feel almost like I almost feel like a fraud. It's like, if you want to get to Mark, you have to be my friend first. You know, it's like, but hey, it works. So how bad do you want to talk to him? You have to deal with me. But I'm glad we're connected now. So keep in touch.
I will. I will. Thank you guys.
Have a great night.
Thank you,
All right,
Dee.
take care.
Great to hear from
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
That was so awesome.
That was great. Thank you so much for putting her on.
Nice picture.
I know. I've got to show you something here. Let's go back to this. Just a minute. Come on, get out of there. Oh, it's in the wrong thing. Hold on.
Looks like cotton candy.
Doesn't it though? Yes, it does, Chris. Now let's go here, and then let's drop down a little. Over here, and there we go, right there. Look at that. Guess what that is?
I know.
Go ahead, tell us all.
Oh, sorry. Are you zooming in on that streak now?
Yeah.
Want me to tell you that?
Yeah.
Is it a satellite?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Now,
Darn,
I was
wrong.
gonna say Orion, and then I saw you zooming. I'm like, oh, hold on, wait.
yeah, no, but that's when have you ever seen a satellite crossing the Orion Nebula? Isn't this cool?
Weird.
It's very cool. Yeah, it's really cool, and it's actually this is a north-south moving satellite. So now this exposure, just let's take a look at the exposure, okay? Because then we can actually calculate a little bit more about it. If we look at this, the exposure of this thing, let me get my thumb out here, my gloves that are all whacked up here. Okay, if we look at the exposure settings, okay, we are doing 10 seconds. This is a 10-second shot, okay, at ASA or ISO 16,000. So if we look at this again, let me just go back. So now we jump into this again, get a little closer to it over here, and then zoom in. That trails 10 seconds of exposure, okay? Now, for that 10 seconds, all right, that means that we can calculate how high that satellite is in the sky and what its orbit is, because it took 10 seconds for it to go that far. Now, if at this magnification that we're at right here, if that satellite was at the height of, say, the International Space Station, let's say 250 miles, it would have been a streak all the way across the entire picture. Not just this picture, but, across this picture, okay? But it's not. So it means it's higher in altitude, and that is a higher orbit. So it probably is a satellite that is, out about 10,000 miles or so, or maybe 8,000 miles.
I kind of want that picture.
You can kind of have it. And the other thing is, let me go back. This is the raw view here. If I go to my the 4K mode, we go in here and just pick up a little more. So that's kind of what the nebula looks like live, real time in the 4K mode. But then I want to drop down to see, I did that for 16,000 before. I'm gonna do 10,000, and we're gonna go with 10,000 ISO sensitivity, and instead of 10 seconds, let's jump up to 20 seconds, or actually 25 seconds. So this will be a little longer, but I just want you to see what we can see here at 25 seconds. These pictures will be all available, Keith. You can have them if you want. And the raw image is actually quite large.
You know what I'm doing with them? I'm going to have them printed on paper, and they're going to actually plaster the studio.
No, I think that's great. And these guys are gonna be cool, and there's some really cool, colorful things that you can take images of. Orion's actually still in the murk right now. It's actually not up high enough to, really give us spectacular views yet. So we're kind of seeing a kind of a compromised Orion. But I do like the satellite passing in front of it, and I'll put that up on the site and have a little discussion. And I'll do the actual calculation for how far that satellite is, and put that up there. Very cool. Amanda, you're still here, aren't you? You sound like
I am.
Oh,
we
good.
do have some questions because
Please
people
do.
are getting nervous because you said you were getting cold and we're back on the Orion, and people think that you're going to be ending soon. So.
What makes them think that? The fact that I'm already shutting down? No, I'm kidding.
Complaining about your gloves and your freezing fingers.
Well, I do have the heater
Subtle.
thingies, but I only have 2 of them, and my feet are really cold. So let me just hear some more of the questions.
Note to self: buy Mark thermal socks for Christmas.
Actually, I'm gonna get myself, electric socks, because the electric socks they'll last as long as the battery lasts, and that's a lot longer than, and have more even heat. And I had these things, and when I was a kid, and man, they worked great, but they got too hot, and I remember one time when had little wire filaments. I remember I was walking on them so much that the wire filament wore through, and I didn't know it. And the battery started to heat it up to the point where it was like so hot that it was burning me. And I was like, my foot, running around, hopping around. But anyway, Amanda, tell me what you got so I can answer some folks' questions without sounding like an idiot here, just going on and on.
Okay. Back and forth here. Okay. Another question from Slam Stunk.
Okay.
If a star is dense enough, it will create a black hole. Could a core collapsed star cluster also create a black hole with many stars inside? Good question.
Well, a black hole is a event that occurs with one singular star. Okay, and that's a high mass star. If a star is very high mass, then it could collapse. I'll just give you this overview. If you have a star that's less than a well-known mass, which is 1.44 solar masses, okay, then that star, that 1.44 is the highest mass you can have for a stable white dwarf. So if a star that's, say, 3 times the mass of the sun, as a star lives its life, it has mass loss. It's giving off stuff, okay? There's a price to pay for all the energy it radiates, and that price is mass. And as the star goes to, end its existence, what it'll do is either go supernova if it's a very heavy star, or, like our sun will, it's going to end up swelling into a red giant, and then the outer layers of the star will become, gravitationally free of the sun, and they will just, continue outward into what we call a planetary nebula, like the Dumbbell Nebula we see, like the Cat's Paw, and so forth. And if that happens, the mass might be down low enough so that when the star core just collapses and shrinks, and it reaches white dwarf stage, which is what's at the center of these planetary nebulae, then the white dwarf is going to be under or just at 1.44 solar masses. That's the number we discovered because that's the highest mass that white dwarf can be after all the mass loss and everything else to be stable. Now, if the star is more massive than 1.44 solar masses, then the star cannot be stable, all right, because the star's mass in the core as it's collapsing can overpower what's called the electron degeneracy pressure. That's degenerate, like, degeneracy. Okay, so the electron degeneracy pressure can be overwhelmed by a more massive star, and the star can collapse right past the white dwarf stage, and it goes to the neutron star stage. Okay, and the neutron star stage is a really interesting stage because that star is held stable by something called neutron degeneracy pressure. Okay, and then a more massive star than that can collapse beyond and overwhelm neutron degeneracy pressure and reach black hole status. And of course, we know black holes as these very dark objects from which light itself can't even escape. And when you say, well, light can't escape, that it has to do with the strong gravitational fields, all right, that are associated with a black hole of sufficient mass. And when that happens, okay, the light can't escape because light itself is able to be bent by a large gravitational field. Now, that was something that was postulated, back when Einstein was doing his work, and they discovered, in fact, that the light during an eclipse, the starlight during an eclipse, was in fact being bent around the star, around the sun. And they could tell the positions were different, and that's how they actually proved that. So very interesting stuff, and that's that white dwarf size, that white dwarf to neutron star to black hole, that took a lot of years to actually come up with that. And that 1.44 solar mass limit on for the stability of a white dwarf, that's something that was created by Subrahim Chandrasekhar. He discovered that, and that's called the Chandrasekhar limit. It's a very famous value because it became a milestone value that you would look for when looking at objects and trying to figure out whether they were 1.44 solar masses or above or below. Just a very a very important number in astronomy. So this all comes into play when we look at things like two neutron stars that are circling each other, and then they start to merge, and they give off gravitational waves. Well, gravitational waves from these neutron stars are just, they were predicted by Einstein, as we know, and have heard, as I've said, and then they ended up being seen to really truly exist when we caught the merging of the neutron stars from the LIGO, the Laser Interferometry Gravitational Wave Observatories. The LIGO units actually saw them. There's a LIGO unit in Louisiana. There was a LIGO in Hanford, Washington. And there was another collection, the Virgo detector that was elsewhere in the world. And these devices were actually able to see the passage of gravitational waves through the Earth at different times, and they could actually figure out from them where this was. And then they saw the two merging neutron stars, and it formed a huge energy flux that was out there, and it was that kilonova that was seen. And of course, it's hard for people to understand what a neutron star is and what a white dwarf is. And it's hard to think that a star like the sun, which is a plasma gas, okay, the density of the sun increases as you get more toward the center, but the sun's never solid per se, except in the very core where there might be helium ash that's in there from the fusing of hydrogen into helium. But what happens is when you get a very, very big star that collapses down past white dwarf, becomes a neutron star, people don't understand what that really means and what that looks like. And you have to imagine a surface that's tens of thousands of degrees hot in temperature, and it's actually as hard as a billiard ball. It's like it's got a crust on it, like a planet almost, but it's nowhere near a planet, and it's only going to be about 20 miles across. An entire star gets collapsed down into a 20-mile diameter, hard as a billiard ball object that is extremely hot and energetic, gives off tons of ultraviolet radiation, and has tremendous tremendous magnetic fields. So that's something that the universe is a deadly place. I mean, it can really kill us if we let it. But the fact is, neutron stars are strange creatures. White dwarfs are strange creatures. Black holes might not even be the strangest creature. The strangest creature might be the universe itself. Like, where, for instance, is the where is the end of the universe, and what is the universe? Is there a parallel universe? Do we have multiple universes out there? There's a lot of people that say we do. We have that going on right now. Is that possible? It might be. So we just have to figure out, what our science actually has to catch up to all these potential theories. And by the way, just for people to know, I mentioned earlier that there was an object in the sky that I saw one night that was actually not supposed to be there. It was very bright, and then it went away. and I couldn't tell what it was, and I thought maybe it was a satellite on a foreshortened path coming toward me. I just saw another one right to the right of Sirius in the sky, and it was actually it was very bright, and then it started to dim out, and there was another star to the right of Sirius and above, and then Sirius itself, and this made a perfect right triangle with these two other stars, and it didn't change. And I mean, apparently, if I had looked at it with a telescope, it might very well have been changing, but this was actually very fascinating. So, and the way it came into brightness and then dimmed out, I'm absolutely convinced that was a satellite that was on a foreshortened path. Okay, not an aircraft, no lights were flashing. It was a steady light that just got brighter and then dimmer. So there are these things out there that happen. Very, very cool. Neat, neat, neat. Anyway, that said, Amanda, if you've got some more questions, yeah, please. I'm going to take us to another object, too.
And I think I know the answer to this because I think we may have seen one before.
Okay.
Tana wants to know, are there any binary stars close enough to see with your telescope? Have we looked at binary stars before? Yeah.
Yep, we spent a whole night on double stars. They're called, you know. And
I was gonna say I was thinking double stars, but I thought with astronomy they could be two totally different things. So binary stars are double stars. What are triple stars? Are they still binary as well, or?
No, they're actually triple stars. Okay.
See that's.
I'll give you an example.
Astronomy is so weird.
No, not really. Alpha Centauri is a triple star system. Now, the main components are capital A, capital B, okay, all right, and then capital C for the third component. Well, A and B are binary stars, if you want to think of it this way then, circling each other, and the C component circles both of them. But the total conglomerate is a triple star system. And in fact, as I've mentioned a few times, I believe, that triple star system actually has a planet around that C component, and that, of course, is a red dwarf star called Proxima, and that's very interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's okay. Okay. Well, there's a question for a possible future sighting, and I'm not sure if it's something you can do.
Okay.
Hush Puppy wanted to know: is there any way you can do a live stream showing the sun facing Virgo as the sun sets with a bunch of different filters? I know it's a specific ask, but...
Well, say that sentence again. I'm not sure I even understood the sentence. I must have missed something here.
Okay. He wants to see a stream of you streaming the sun facing Virgo as the sun is setting using a whole bunch of different filters.
The sun facing Virgo is what I'm not understanding. What's that mean?
Okay, I don't know, because that's what I tried to say. He asked before, and I said constellations are too big to see with a telescope.
Correct.
So I'm not sure. I don't know if the sun facing Virgo, is that like as it's setting, like would that be like a specific area of sky he wants to see?
All right,
like,
let me clarify if I can. It's here we go. This is a big thing in the Nibiru community. That's all you need to know. On to the next.
You know what? Yeah, because I saw you comment something about Nibiru a long time ago, but I didn't know who you were responding to or what that was supposed to mean. I thought Nibiru was supposed to be like way past Pluto or something.
Well, Nibiru...
Isn't that planet 10, or is that something different?
Yeah, it's something different. Nibiru is the death planet that's supposed to be heading toward us, you know. But there is no death planet heading toward us. We would have known about it. We would have seen it. We would have been able to calculate the changes and effects on all the other planets in our solar system because of the gravity of this interloper that's supposed to be out there. But we don't see any of that. You know, we don't see any of that. And, you know, and it's not to say that it's, you know, because we don't see it now that we shouldn't be concerned for it, because it will happen someday. We will end up having a potential rogue planet that makes its way here. It's possible. All right.
But let's just be clear for anybody susceptible listening. Don't go out and buy your milk and bread and eggs now. It's nowhere near anywhere near us.
That's correct.
You're fine.
Yeah, no, and in fact, there's nothing known to be anywhere near us anyway. So, I mean, you got to understand that the universe is, for all its irregularity, the universe is actually quite a regular place. When we have a solar system, we've been here for billions of years. Okay,
Yeah.
just about 4.5 billion years the Earth has been here, and we've actually spent a lot of time circling the sun before humans ever came along, and the Earth is still here. So it's not like there's something coming just because we're alive now. Doesn't mean, okay, because we're alive now, death is upon us. No, it's not.
But is it true that we're due for an extinction event again?
Well, what does that mean? Due? I mean,
well, when you look at timelines.
Well, when you look at timelines, it makes you think, okay, well, we haven't had an extinction event in a long time. Well, okay, well, what's a long time? We're just coming out of a glacial age. Did you know that? We're coming out of a glacial age. We're post-glacial right now. We've just, if you look at the timeline of the Earth, we were just frozen, okay, and now we're unfreezing. If you look at the timeline of the Earth on my toilet paper scale that I like to make the history of the Earth on for people,
which is great, by the way.
I love that thing. It's great. If you look at that, dinosaurs are recent history. They're only like, on a 117-foot long history of the Earth, okay, which is a roll of toilet paper, okay. Dinosaurs are about 2 feet from the end where we are, okay. So clearly, they're recent history. So it's all relative. The other thing that, for instance, people say, oh, the poles are going to shift, and then we're all going to die. Well, guess what? The poles will shift eventually again. And when they do, and I'll explain what that means, when they do, you won't even notice it, because it's going to take about 5,000 years to occur. And when it does, it's just the magnetic field is going to get a little bit warped on itself, and the North Pole and the South Pole will actually sort of exchange their positions, and it'll be a long-term effect,
right,
with every place in between being hit. It's not going to be like suddenly, bam, it changes. Oh no, the GPS satellites are falling out of the sky, planes are flipping over and crashing. No, ain't going to be that way.
I got a question for Electric there in the chat. He posted something interesting. You may not believe, but Betelgeuse is going supernova, but we won't see it for another 32 years. So, how do we know it went supernova?
Mark this date down, and in 32 years we'll.
Yeah, but how do we know it went supernova?
We don't.
Exactly.
And see, there's ways to. You can make predictions based on what you see. See, Betelgeuse is interesting. In fact, because we're talking about Betelgeuse, let me just let's just go grab it, okay? Let's take a look at it.
Betelgeuse.
And say it 3 times fast. Betelgeuse, Betelgeuse, Betelgeuse.
Yeah, I found that interesting because he almost posted it like it was fact, and I was like, well, is it fact? Like, how could you really tell if we're not able to see it? I mean, obviously you can do prediction scales, but when it comes to we know things in space and astronomy, our prediction scales, we're lucky if we're within 500,000 years.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
So narrowing it down to 32 years is kind of a stretch.
Quite a stretch. I think that part of what this is reading something online that looks like it might be the real thing, or you might be taken in by it. There's nothing we have that shows us that Betelgeuse is going to go supernova. We know it's going to go supernova. I mean, that's
popular. Well, I remember something that
very common knowledge for that, actually.
What this guy's name's escaped me. The guy, Sagan. Something
Carl.
That he said in one of his specials way back when. He said, you have to realize in terms of space and distances and time, he's like, when a star becomes on the brink of a supernova, on the brink is within, 600 to a million years.
Yeah, it could be
to a million years.
Yeah.
That's on the brink in space terms.
That's right. But that's okay. I mean, I can't blame people for, feeling this urgency because somebody else made them feel that way.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure because I thought he knew something that I didn't.
Yeah, no,
it's sure like, wow, did we really figure that out that it's going to go supernova? Did I miss something?
Well, it's just something that people say that. Here's Betelgeuse, okay. When we look at a star like Betelgeuse, one of the things to understand is that Betelgeuse is actually a very large, supergiant star. Okay, and all stars, right, no matter how bright they seem, okay, these stars, they're bright because they have a high what's called luminosity. That's in intrinsic brightness, and this intrinsic brightness is based on their diameter. Okay, now right above Betelgeuse, you see that little tiny star right in the glare of it? That's up there, just above it, just slightly above it. Mm-hmm. Well, Betelgeuse itself is far smaller than that. Okay, but the brightness of it is huge because of the fact that we actually, it has a large diameter relative to the other stars around it, and so it has the ability to overexpose our camera view like this very easily. So, but there are no stars that we can see as disks in the sky. And just to give you an example, if I had a quarter, a 25-cent piece, and I had to take that quarter away from my camera, a regular camera that I had in my hands, and we're taking a picture of the quarter, how far away would that quarter have to go so that the disc of that quarter was the same diameter as Alpha Centauri? Okay, the A component, that's just about the sun size. How far away would that quarter have to go? All right. Now, I could make that a quiz question and make people wait, but I do want to impress upon you just how far away the stars really are. The nearest star is Alpha Centauri, right? That system. So, Alpha Centauri A and a quarter, for them to be the same angular size in a camera, you'd have to move that quarter over 760 miles away from your camera to make it the same size. Okay? That tells it all. Okay? Now, go to Betelgeuse, which is 500 light years away or so, and now you're talking about the reason seeing the stars at all is because of their intrinsic brightness is very high. In some cases, because they're hot young stars like the O stars that are in Orion's belt here and there, and then the Betelgeuse is actually this bright, large diameter supergiant, which would go out to the orbit of Mars if it was here in our solar system, and so that star could very well go supernova someday. But we'll see when it does do that. We'll actually see that Betelgeuse is going to go. It'll go supernova, but it'll go very, very bright in the sky, kind of like the Crab Nebula did in 1054 AD, when Chinese astronomers saw this new star in the sky, even in the daytime. Okay, and they saw this, and at night, and what they saw was a bright star. Now, they didn't have telescopes in 1054 to look at these things, okay, but what they would have seen was just a very bright object. And if we had like the Hubble or other things, then we could have seen like potentially what we saw in the Eta Carina Nebula when we saw supernova 1987A. Now, you should look up, all of you that are listening or in chat or whatever, look up supernova 1987A and look up the words light echo. And you'll see a video that was put together over a period of weeks or whatever, days, weeks, I think it was, where the light moving outward from the explosion of this star in the Magellanic Cloud, okay, down in the southern hemisphere, the light was reflecting off of other dust and gas. It was exciting as the light traveled away from the star, and you see the light echo, the reflections off of this stuff. And that's kind of the only way you can see the speed of light, is at this kind of scale. All right? Because light moves so fast, it could actually go around the Earth 7 times in a second. Right. 7 times per second. That's a fast-moving bundle of light, let me tell you. So this is Betelgeuse, and if it were to go supernova, we would actually see it go very bright in the sky, and then over time we'd actually see the nebula forming around it from the supernova. But at the distance of Betelgeuse, it might take a while.
You know what? Now that we're talking about light, I wanted to run something by, and I was going to do it off the air, but we can do it here. It's fine.
Yeah.
I was thinking about offering a crater as a prize, but I want to get all 3 channels involved.
Yeah, that's something we're doing. I want to do that for our quiz and questions segment too.
Well, here's the idea that I'm having, and I'll announce it on the next P&K stream, obviously. But we wanted to have all 3 channels involved, and let me know what you think. I was thinking, well, we're going to do it on P&K either way, but if you want to be involved with it, cool, and we can get Bill involved with it as well. December 3rd is the full moon.
Mm-hmm.
And what we were thinking about doing is doing the moonshine contest. Now this can be for anybody. All you need is a digital camera, possibly a tripod or a friend that could take a picture for you.
Yep.
And what we want to do is we want people to take pictures of their moon shadow, just the moonlight. So you're going to need some kind of exposure on your digital camera, whether it be 5-10 seconds. You should be able to get your shadow for that.
Okay.
And we were going to pick the winner of one of those photos and then send them a crater.
Okay. That sounds
So
cool.
it's basically like, because everybody can take a picture of their own shadow when it comes to the sun, but
Yeah.
nobody has them with the moon.
Yeah.
And the moon does create moonshine, and you will get a shadow. It just takes a little longer.
Yeah, you got to
So
do a
if you
time
have
exposure.
a digital camera, as I said, 5 to 10 seconds should be more than enough to take a picture of your shadow, and just, get creative with it. And then me, you, and Bill get together, and we'll pick out, the winner, and maybe send them a crater, if that's good by you.
Yeah, no, that's fine by me. I think it's a great idea. And I think between us on Astro Imaging Live and our individual streams, we're going to be offering these craters as prizes anyway for a variety of things, and because we have them, we made them. The other thing I have that I'm going to be offering down the line here is, and they're already available, they're already made, and they just haven't been up. They're not up in the store yet. Because of my work with the Mutual UFO Network as the chief photo and video analyst, I've actually created a History Maker series of UFOs. So series 1 are 3 UFOs that were very important in the history of UFOs. One's the Belgian Triangle, one is the S4 UFO from Area 51, and one is the Rex Heflin UFO, which kind of looks like a flying top hat. Now, it may be that some of these could be hoaxes. However, that doesn't mean they're not important to the history of ufology. And so that's why I made them. Now, they're on little stands with embossed letters on the bottom that are painted a nice silver. The stands are black. And they're on posts that the UFO can sit on and be removed from the post to check it out. They're painted realistically. The Belgian Triangle's got the red lights at the corners and central grid in the middle and detail along the edges, and the S4 UFO has windows in it and stuff. So I mean, it's really cool, and that's a whole nother thing. So we're going to be offering the History Maker series for these UFOs as well, and people can buy all 3 or they can buy one. And for the craters, and this is something I've mentioned with you, Keith. The craters we can offer as individual craters, as standard or deluxe models, as without a wooden plaque and brass plate describing the diameter, latitude, longitude, and name of the feature. Just the standard plate alone. It's still painted in the same way as the deluxe edition, but the standard crate is going to be one offering, and we have the deluxe one with the plaques and stuff, and the brass plates. But then, these things are 2 different kinds. There's 2 different levels that you can get. For someone who wants to actually just put something on their desk, maybe they'll get the standard. Okay, but for someone who wants to actually put something on the wall, then they might get one of our plaques, right? That has the crater on it, and these are painted realistically. They're painstakingly. And one thing I wanted to mention when we looked at the moon, earlier, we noticed that the moon itself has a. I'm getting a little dew here, so that's kind of the death knell for the evening.
We still have questions.
We can do questions, but I have some dew in and I'm gonna have to shut the scope down. But where was I here? Shoot, I'm doing 10 things at once. I apologize, guys. Now, so as far as the craters go, one thing that when you look at the moon earlier, we did this. The moon actually isn't just gray. I've said this before. I mean, there's white soil, there's light gray, there's dark gray, and there's brown. There's a lot of browns and brown colors in the moon. So when we paint a crater plate, for instance, a crater setup, we're not just doing this with just like gray. Just spray it with Krylon. That's not what we do. Okay, we're using an airbrush, and we're actually painstakingly painting the craters with the rays. You can see, for instance, on our Tycho crater, you can see the rays of Tycho emanating away. Okay, with Copernicus, you see the rays. With Plato, you can see Mons Pico. Okay, because it's included on the same plate, and it's more of a rectangular plate. And the color inside Plato is a little darker than the mountainous regions outside, and they're realistically painted that way. Really is just beautiful. And I think, Keith, as you'll attest, when we look at like where Jackson Crater, I made Jackson Crater, which is on the far side. It kind of looks like Tycho, actually. And I made that for Keith because of all his help and stuff that he's given me.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and the thing is, we actually, when you have a crater come off the 3D printer, it's actually, it has these little terraced steps in it, okay? And that's artistic in and of itself, so we don't fully eliminate that. But I do actually get rid of a lot of that. I process the plates, I process the craters in a way that kind of removes that without losing the data. And it actually smooths out the plate a little bit in terms of the stair stepping that you get from a 3D printer. And if you do it right, you can actually look at it and see this stunning view of the crater. And then if you hold it at the light in the right way, the labels, they're labeled with north, where north is on the crater. So the east-west, the sun comes from the east and west on the moon craters. And so when you actually hold them east and west and rotate them through the sun, you can actually see how the light falls on the crater, how it hits the central peak after, before it hits the other side, and you can actually see the exact, changes of the light as it occurs. It's so
well, not
cool.
only that, but I'm sitting here holding the one Jackson that you made.
I heard it clacking around there.
Just the little edges, like the little jagged rocks that stick out as, say, the crater rims, they're on there. Like, you can literally touch them and feel them, and they are actually pointy. That's how much detail are in them.
Yeah, see, those were the cyanide-laced spikes I put on there that you were supposed to have, pinpricked your finger with, that you didn't. So, now I'm stuck with you.
You mean I shouldn't have ate it?
Yeah, right. But anyway, so that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. Now, I think I have to totally apologize here because, Amanda, I think you had someone that had more questions, and I didn't get to them, huh? So I'm gonna have
Not
to.
yet.
Okay, you go right ahead and tell me. In the process, I'm gonna move us back to the Orion Nebula one more time.
Oh, well, I was gonna
Go
say Electrics would like to see the Pleiades. Can we see that now, or?
Yeah. Okay. And see, I like to take requests, so we'll do that.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, for any newcomers, not only questions, but if there's something in his area that we can see, we can't see anything in the southern hemisphere, and we're looking more towards the autumn, or are we now into the winter constellations?
Yeah,
not constellations, but
yeah, and
sky.
No, you're right. Winter sky. We're looking at a winter sky now. Based on my feet, the way they feel, we are definitely in the winter sky.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah, the Pleiades are almost at the zenith, which means at the top of the sky from here. So we can go check that out, I believe. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be fun.
All right, well, here we go. Let's go.
Okay, so that would be for Electrics.
Okay.
We have a few more questions. We have one from Ian.
Okay.
Do we know where the center of the universe is?
That's a very good point.
That's
a very
an
good
excellent question.
And let me explain the difficulty with knowing where that is. Okay. First of all, there have been a number of theories, a number of papers done about where we think that might be. But you have to understand that from our perspective, looking out in the universe, you have to think of us on as being on an expanding balloon. If we were on the surface of a balloon that's being blown up, everything we look at from the surface of that balloon will be moving away from us. Right? Everything, as the balloon expands, then all the little things on the surface of the balloon around us get farther apart from us and each other. So that's what we're dealing with the universe. We're dealing with stuff that's moving out. Now, that's just 2 dimensions on a balloon surface. This is 3-dimensional space, okay, where you don't have the constraint of the surface of a balloon. So it's actually fairly tricky to figure this stuff out, honestly. Okay, these are the Pleiades here. We're kind of zoomed in a little bit, because of the nature of the telescope. All right, let me just do. God, it's suddenly getting far colder in here. Holy cow! Hope it's not the super freeze. All right, I'm just going to. The moon's out, so we're not going to really see any nebulous detail, unfortunately. But I'm gonna try anyway, just to show something. On a dark night, we can see what's called the Merope reflection nebula. Now, here's a thing that's interesting. The Pleiades are B-type stars in our scale. Remember, O, B, A, F, G, K, M. That the B stars are very hot. They have a lot of ultraviolet energy. So the Pleiades were born in a nebula that was sort of like the Orion Nebula, which is what's called an H, Roman numeral 2, H2 region, which is an ionized hydrogen region, which has a rich set of. Oh, we can see a nice. We can see the nebula. That's nice. Which has a nice rich set of stars in it, and there is a star-forming region. The center of the Orion Nebula has the trapezium in it, and one of those trapezium stars is actually responsible for brightening and illuminating the Orion Nebula and causing it to glow. So I'm going to do 25 seconds at 20,000 ISO here. All I have to do is get a good picture, see, and it makes me want to stay out longer. Oh. So anyway, now if we consider that the Pleiades formed in such a nebula, I asked a question the other night, and it was answered successfully, I think, by Daryl, and a couple other people came close. To their credit, good job. And that was, why don't we see the gas from the region that the Pleiades were formed in? How come we don't see that? And the answer was that the stars have a very, very strong stellar wind, like the sun has a solar wind, okay? But it's much more intense from these young stars. And so what happens is it would actually cause the hydrogen gas to glow initially, okay, in that form. And then what it would do is it would cause the gas to be blown further away from the star. And that's sort of what happened in the case of the Pleiades. All right. Now, if you notice here, we're actually seeing, this is a very good image, okay, to show this. Okay, this is one of the stars in the Pleiades, and it has a circular nebula around it, doesn't it? You see that? It's sort of curved, okay? That curvature that you're seeing is because the stellar winds of that star are blowing the, not blowing like wind, okay, but the radiation pressure is impinging on the dust, all right, that's surrounding the star, and it's starting to clear it out a little bit. But you have to keep in mind that the Pleiades stars are at a certain location in space, but this dust wasn't there when the Pleiades were born, okay? This dust is something that these Pleiades stars have kind of come into and entered into from their previous location where they were born, because they've been around for long enough to have traveled through the galaxy a little bit, and they left behind their stellar nursery and blew the gas away, and then they've entered this area of space where there is dust. And so we're seeing what are called reflection nebulae, that is, starlight reflecting off of dust around the stars. Now, when I say dust, I mean they're fine-grained, micron-sized particles out there, okay? And that's what we're looking at here. And so you see this nebulous cloud surrounding the star, and it has a circularity to it because the star's stellar wind is pushing on it, effectively, the radiation pressure. And it helps form the shape of these things. So it's very cool, and that's kind of how that all works, all right? And the Pleiades have a tremendous amount of this blue reflection nebula in it, because the stars are very, very hot, very, very powerful. Now, as far as planets go, in our scale, O, B, A, F, G, K, M, we don't see planets until we get to around A. All right, O is way too hot. The O stars are way too hot. They only live a few 100 million years. and then they obliterate themselves in a supernova. Okay, the B stars can be similar, but they can also survive a little longer than O stars. A stars like Vega. Vega's an A0, Roman numeral 5. That is, it's a main sequence that is burning, fusing hydrogen into helium in normal way. And that star, Vega, in the summer sky, 26 light years away, is a star that is kind of like the minimum. That's sort of like the youngest A. A0, and not in age, but the youngest in the youngest class. It's young and old in astronomy. Late type, early type, basically is what we're talking about. Okay, early type A is A0, late type A is A9. That doesn't mean it's late as in time, it's just later in the A scale. Yeah, and I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you, but play back the stream and hear it. I don't know. But Vega being an A0 type star, it's sort of a standard candle for us when we're trying to classify stars, because it has a certain spectrum that we can recognize pretty readily. The hydrogen lines, for instance, the hydrogen absorption lines, as they're called, in the spectrum of Vega, are really pronounced, and you can see them very clearly. And in fact, when I get the spectral system running here on the scope, I'll show them to you. All right. And that'll be really interesting how you see these lines, and you'll say, oh, I get it now. And until then, we'll just take my word for it. But now, a star that's later on in the A type range, like say it's a A5. Now we're talking about a star that's getting closer to the F, spectral class, A9, A8, A7. We're getting closer to the Fs, and now we can probably have planets. That's kind of what we think, that somewhere in the A-type star range, we'll find a star that actually can support planets. Because right now we don't see stars that can support planets in the really early A's. But I will say this, okay? The universe fools us. We think we've found a planet that cannot possibly support life, but is also, it does exist around a B-type star, all right? And that's, so as I'm showing you, the current science says A-type stars are, the only, the least amount you can have a planet from, or planet with, and the earliest, the earliest place is like an A5 or whatever. Yet there's a B8 that seems to have some kind of planetary system. So the universe fools us. Our science is incomplete. Exoplanet science, my science, is a young science, but we'll get there. We will get there. So long drawn out answer to a very good question.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I hope Ian enjoyed that. We have a question. Now this one was going back. Oh, you said you wanted to go back to Orion anyway, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to jump back there real quick. And then that will be the last object of the evening. I apologize. But I'm glad we actually got to look at some of these other things, because I did not think that I would actually get to them, because I think
it wasn't supposed to be this clear. This was kind of a last minute thing, and I think it's turned out wonderfully so far. Yeah. Yeah,
this was actually I was supposed to have a cloudy night tonight, so I have no idea how come it's not cloudy. And
because every time you say you want to stream, the clouds come.
Yeah, that's right.
When you have no intentions of doing it, they give you a break.
That's right. Okay, come on back, Orion Nebula. Now, for those that don't know what's going on here, the telescope is actually homing in on the Orion Nebula by itself here. I'm not doing this. It's actually doing it, and it's doing it because I actually have spent a significant amount of time getting the telescope to be aligned properly, so that I can actually, not have to spend a whole lot of time moving the telescope by hand. In fact, I can't move the telescope by hand. If I do, then it ruins the settings. I have to actually just, I have to do this, this way. I have to do it automatically, let it do it by itself. So when I come out here to take out, bring out the telescope and get it up and running, I don't touch the telescope. I turn it on, I let it find its GPS coordinate, and I let it figure out where it is on the Earth, and then it aligns. It starts the software, which gets the position of all the stars in the sky, and once that gets set up, we're golden, and then we can start up the scope and use it. It doesn't mean that I don't have to sometimes spend time realigning the scope, because I absolutely do sometimes. I'm gonna do 8 seconds at 12,800 right here on the Orion Nebula. Then I'm gonna show you something else, and then I'm gonna can it because I'm really cold.
Okay, well, while we're back here,
Yeah.
Ted wanted to know what gases are we seeing with this image,
Oh,
and that was for the nebula, so
Yeah,
or
like
the,
right here.
for Orion, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. See, what we're looking at here, Ted, is we're seeing hydrogen, which is glowing because of the bright stars in the center of that white area. Okay, and that hydrogen is undergoing an atomic transition, and that atomic transition, where'd it go? Did my battery die? No, it did not. Okay, that hydrogen is undergoing an atomic transition that's taking sorry, I'm just looking at something here. Okay, when you have a H2 region like this, come on, what's going on? Sorry guys, I just gotta figure out why it's doing it. I think it's actually a little issue here with the connector. The hydrogen gas is ionized, all right, and that means that hydrogen atom, which is a proton and an electron, the electron can get enough energy from the stars in the center of this nebula, that are in the middle of that white area. It can get enough energy to actually leave the atom behind and become free of the atom, all right? But because that electron is colliding with other atoms and other material out there, it will lose that energy with every collision, and then it'll do what's called recombination, or the proton undergoes this electron capture, it's called again, and the electron rejoins the atoms. Now, it may not rejoin the same atom, but it'll rejoin another hydrogen atom that's been ionized. And when it does, it drops into a lower energy state, and as it does that, it gives off light, and that light is in the characteristic red end of the spectrum. 65, 63 angstroms, or 656.3 nanometers, if you want to go there like that and talk about nanometers. It's just another unit. And when we see that, okay, what is going on? Sorry guys, I'm just trying to figure out why this is happening here. It might be a connector issue, like I said. It could be cold, but anyway, and when it does that transition and drops, we get that orange, that red light. On the outside of this nebula, though, okay, you'll notice that there's blue fringes. Not in the far outside. That's actually a figment, of the filter that I'm using. Okay, but that just on the outside edges of the nebula. Let me see if I can zoom in to show you this, because this is cool. All right. Nope, not that. Let me do this. Okay, now we go here. So if we look over on this side of the nebula, you see how you see that that sharp division right there? Now, that division is an area where the nebula that is being excited by the bright hot star, okay, goes from being an emission nebula, that is a nebula where the hydrogen atoms are doing that thing I told you about, where the electron gets freed from the atom and the atom's ionized, and that electron rejoins another atom and gives off the light to make this red glow. That's the division between that area and where it gets just outside that ionization range. And now there's dust all throughout this nebula, which is, you can clearly see, we call it's actually molecular clouds. You can see that here in the center. That dark area is actually a molecular cloud, and usually this molecular cloud is an area where there's other dense gas and dust in there, and within that is many times where the stars are formed. And then when they glow and when they wink into existence, you get a bright nebula like you see here as they start to excite other areas of the nebula. So you can see in this division where it goes from that emission location on the right, from emitting light to reflecting light. So the Orion Nebula is called an emission reflection nebula. It's both. It's both kinds of main types of nebula, all right? And that's very common in stellar nurseries, okay? And we see that in a lot of these stellar type nurseries. Now, the other thing you don't really get here is this looks like it's just hanging out there in space. But if you look at this other view up here in the top, if you look at this little guy up top here, this little nebula here, do you see how you see more of the dark nebula that's kind of looks like it's in front of that nebula and approaching the star? That dark nebula is actually a vestige of what is all throughout this whole region. See, the dark nebula that's in here and that's coming over that is all out here, all throughout this whole region. And you just don't see it, see? Now you can actually see, if you look at this area and you look at all the black to the left of it, you say, wow, that kind of looks like that might be all just black, dark nebula. And only where the stars are is it actually illuminated, and because of the glowing reaction that Mark was telling us about, the H2 region reaction with the hydrogen gas being ionized. And that's exactly what you're seeing here. So, it's the anatomy of a nebula, folks. When you see this like this, you see the nebula glowing, you figure out why that's glowing. It's glowing from ionization. And I'll show you one more thing, because right now it doesn't really help you. But if we do this, if I jump in on this, and we just go to the live view, now check it out. You can actually see those 4 stars that are actually causing this nebula. Get back. Come on, stop. Oh, come on. All right. I don't know why sometimes. Again, it's got to be the cold. My iPhone I'm actually controlling this telescope with an iPhone tonight.
I was wondering if the battery was dying on your phone.
No, it's actually I've got it plugged into a portable charger in my pocket. One more thing I do. No, but I'm just showing you this. You can see these are the 4 stars powering the nebula in the middle. Okay, and this region is called the trapezium, and it's called that because of the trapezoidal look of these 4 stars. Now, obviously you can see that they're all different brightnesses, and you can see from this it looks like they're illuminating, the nebula, but that illumination you're seeing is actually ionization and recombination going on and emission. All right, and that's because it's so bright. It doesn't. You can't tell exactly what what's going on there without careful analysis. But let's just do this. Let's come out, and if I just take, let's say, let's go down to just 1600 ASA for 8 seconds. Okay, that is ISO, sensitivity of 800. I'm sorry, 1600. All right, and we're gonna do that for 8 seconds. I want to see if we can capture a little bit of the nebula with these stars in a photo, so it'll be a little more clear. Yes, this is perfect. So now we jump into this, okay, and let's look at this. Now check it out. Now you see the trapezium stars in the center, and you can see how they're actually, they're bright hot stars, and they're actually causing this emission in the center of the nebula. All right, and they're really kind of interesting because they're actually making they're actually the heart of the nebula, and I just think it's a fascinating view of the trapezium. Now, when I process the Orion Nebula, typically I'll make it so you can see the center just like this, but then the outside with all the detail. And that's there's a set of processes you can go through to make it look like that. And it's not a realistic view, right? I mean, it's a view to help you see all the detail all across the nebula. So it's sort of a forced view, but it's cool. Anyway, so that's where we are. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the next question. Actually, it looked like you were gonna touch on it and then pulled away. Rockstar wanted to know how we analyze gas from a distance.
Oh, we actually.
Carefully.
Oh, that's cool. That's good. Actually, the way we analyze Rockstar is we actually take spectra of the the clouds. We can actually take spectra, and what you'll see is when we look at this, actually when I put on my spectral system and we look at this, you're going to see that the Orion Nebula actually emits light, and we're going to see what's called a bright line spectrum, all right? Because it's actually emitting light in certain wavelengths that are very characteristic of certain types of atomic transitions with the element hydrogen. So that's how we can actually determine this and see this stuff. It's actually very, very cool, and it's actually a very good way and a perfect way actually to study the sky. We can actually we can figure things out using just the light, and I think that's an amazing thing. I think that's a wonderful thing, and that's part of astronomy. That's the science,
It's I mean, it's not even amazing that we can do it. What blows my mind is someone thought that up to even try.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible.
Oh, I agree.
It's like you want something so bad you invent mathematical equations to fit until it fits and makes sense, and
yeah, really.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm glad they do it so I don't have to.
Right. That's like scrubbing bubbles.
Yeah.
Scrubbing bubbles, woohoo, scrubbing bubbles. We do it so you don't have to. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that commercial?
Sponsored. I do.
Cool.
We have 2 more questions.
All right, good, because I've got 2 more seconds. Go ahead.
I know I feel bad. This one might
that's all right.
get lengthy, but that discussion came up earlier, and a few people actually, once it was a question, a few other people said that they wanted to hear about it too. So, originally from Tana, but with a lot of support behind her.
All right.
What can you tell us about Alcyone?
What can I talk about? Well, Alcyone's the star. It's in the heart of the Pleiades, and it's a bright, hot B-type star, and there's multiple components in the Alcyone region. I believe Alcyone is actually a star that's actually more than a double star. It might be a triple star. Keith, are you still there?
I know. I was just about to say it sounded like someone just hung up.
Yeah, I think he hung up.
Been the only one.
He must have got bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
But
night,
anyway,
Keith.
yeah, right. So, but Alcyone is a very hot, bright star, and I know that we end up, we talk about it a lot, but we need to spend more time on Alcyone and these stars. I will be in fact doing more in-depth views and talking about the stars more in the Pleiades coming up in the future sky tours for sure.
Okay, so next time we're on Pleiades, we'll discuss Alcyone a lot more then. That's
Yep.
good. And Ted wanted to know, does the gravity of the star pull the dust in?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there is definitely something obviously to be said for that. There is a possibility that a star could in fact pull material in, and that's something that could be, that's something called an accretion disk. It might actually accrete material, and that could be accreting from another star nearby, or it could be something where a star is creating a they're called circumstellar disks. They could create a circumstellar disk, a disk around them of more material. So that's kind of cool, and that happens, and that's a strong possibility. Oh, there it goes again. All right, what's going on here? Oh, hang on a second. I just gotta do this. Get this
Did
thing.
you figure out the issue?
No, I think it's the cold. It's actually the cold. When the telescope starts complaining, that's a problem.
Oh, people so appreciate this, and they feel really bad for you. They're
Why?
starting a collection for thermal underwear, and
That's funny.
No, well, that's the thing. Yeah, I know that you would be out there doing this anyway, but you're setting it up beforehand, and when everyone else goes to bed, you're taking it all down and taking dark photos and stacking them and doing so much more. So, like,
Amanda, listen to you.
I'm nice and warm.
No, listen
I
to
have
you.
my heater going. I'm not freezing to death.
Oh man, that's just wrong on so many counts to say to someone in a cold dome, I got my heater going. I'm just kidding.
Well,
That's funny.
but no, people really, they feel bad that, you always want to go in, but one more thing, and then it spawns questions, and you enjoy it so that we keep you much longer than you want.
Well, isn't it crazy though? I mean, it's just when you look at it, when you consider what we're doing and what we're seeing, I mean, we're looking at something at 1,400 light years away in the Orion Nebula. It is that was you see it, and it's just an amazing thing. It's several light years across, and you say, how did that ever happen? The universe has a lot of time on its hands, frankly, and so it could actually make sure that something that you may think is not going to be so visible, it could be visible over time because of the fact that you're going to be looking at it, say 1 million years after the light first starts flowing away from the stars, But I don't know. I just think that's crazy, just wonderful. But I am going to say goodnight now, folks. I don't want to, but I really don't want to. But my feet are insisting upon it.
Well, D points this out, and I tell you this every single time we stream. You can't do a show if you get sick. If you get too run down, if you
coming from someone
just
who has
black out because you forget to eat for a few days, I mean...
Yeah, I actually forgot to eat today for up until the fact that I got a headache. And then after I took an Excedrin, I was okay. But you know what? I'll tell you this. One of the things that I will tell you right now, I appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate all of your efforts. I want to thank you. I want to thank Amanda. I want to thank Paul and Keith from PK Space Imaging. Bill in New York Skywatcher, who didn't even show up tonight, but that's okay. We love him anyway. I'll be up at Bill's this weekend on Saturday, and we're going to do a live show up there. And I will be seeing you again on the next clear night because, hey, this is the SkyTour LiveStream. Don't forget, check out our online store. Amanda, if you can put that link in one more time. Definitely. Check out the craters. Check out Mars and the features that we have on all the different solar system bodies. If you're interested, grab one. Pick one up. We'll get it to you. And we might even be able to get it to you before Christmas. That said, folks, thank you guys so much for attending. I'm going to go in and get warm. And let me tell you this. Don't forget, keep looking up. And I'll talk to you soon.